Chapter 1743. The Son of Light and the other geniuses' godhoods emitted all kinds of light under the great pressure, instantly rendering the space into a beautiful neon rainbow. Among them, some of their godhoods had even begun to crack. They couldn't help but change their expressions and retreat quickly. However, most of the geniuses had successfully gained a foothold and were trying to break through to a higher level to obtain a higher quality Genesis Chi. Godhood. Chu Yang narrowed his eyes. He didn't have a godhood. In that case, wouldn't he have nothing to resist? This was an extremely terrible problem. Oh my God, look, the Genesis Sun is breaking through to the seventh heaven. No way, the Genesis Sun is so bold and unrestrained from the beginning, directly breaking through the previous limit record? Is the Genesis Sun too confident, or has he lost his mind? If he doesn't succeed, he will die for a righteous cause. Everyone was frightened by the initial sun. They screamed and exclaimed incessantly. However, their surprise suddenly stopped and they quietly looked at the initial sun in the seventh heaven. Bang! 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 At this moment, the Genesis Sun's godhood was being inexplicably smashed by something. Flames kept bursting out like fireworks, making it look like the night sky, magnificent and beautiful. The Genesis Sun's face was pale, and blood kept flowing from the corners of his mouth. Many of his muscles were spasming and twitching for some reason, and the sound of bones cracking could be heard from his body. Bang! 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 His body began to explode, and blood, flesh, and broken bones kept sputtering out. In the blink of an eye, his body was broken like a sandbag that had been blown up. There were holes all over his body, and blood was flowing out like rustling sand. The Genesis Sun looked up to the sky and roared like a trapped beast. His long hair flew in the air, and blood spurted out like flying arrows. His flesh and bones cracked even more, but his whole body was glowing, soft and dazzling. Crack! 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 His teeth were clenched so hard that some of them even broke. However, he stood there firmly as if he was fixed there. In the end, there was no movement at all, as if he was dead. Did he succeed? Is the Son of Absolute Beginning dead or alive? Many questions popped up in people's minds. Chu Yang also watched without blinking. He didn't know much about the Chi of Absolute Beginning, so this was the best reference. Ha! After a while, the first son, who was frozen in place, suddenly straightened his body like a javelin, looking disdainfully in all directions. He was like a monarch overlooking his country and his people. He was high-spirited and full of lofty sentiments. When he clenched his fist, there was a domineering aura as if the entire world was in his grasp. At this moment, the first child was incomparably dazzling, emitting an extremely oppressive pressure that made people look askance. It was incomparably dazzling, becoming the center of the world. He also displayed his loftiness, nobility, and supremacy. This was especially so when he stood firmly in the seventh level of the celestial palace and set the highest record of the Tai Chu tribe. He was announcing to everyone that he was about to rule the world and rule the world. He was going to rule the world and become the sole ruler of the world. He was also announcing that he, the Son of Absolute Beginning, was the favorite of heaven and earth, the protagonist of heaven and earth, and no one was able to compete with him. Of course, this was also his provocation to everyone. Chapter 1744. Young Master has succeeded. Young Master has succeeded. Ha! When a bald elder from the Tai Chu tribe saw that the son of the Tai Chu tribe had successfully stabilized himself in the seventh layer of heaven, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. He was also extremely arrogant. His laughter immediately broke the silence. The seventh level of heaven. Someone from our Tai Chu tribe has finally succeeded. Some people from the Tai Chu tribe exclaimed. They occupied the land of absolute beginning and had an unparalleled advantage. However, they were unable to achieve the best result. Instead, they were suppressed by others. Although they had not said anything and it seemed like nothing had happened, they had been holding their breaths for so many years. Today they had finally succeeded. Therefore, while they were exclaiming, they were also extremely excited and looking forward to it. Young Master has successfully gained a foothold in the 7th level of heaven on his first attempt. How amazing! No one in the past can compare to him. As long as he adjusts for a while and recovers from his injuries, he might be able to break through to the 8th level of heaven. It's not maybe. He will definitely be able to break through to the 8th level of heaven. That's right. Our Tai Chu tribe will create an unprecedented record that no one will be able to surpass. In the future, no one can say that our Tai Chu tribe is not good enough. The Tai Chu tribe had been holding back for a long time. At this moment, they could finally vent all their frustrations. However, no one dared to voice their objections at this moment. Moreover, this was indeed extremely amazing. Since the discovery of the primordial Qi at the starting ground, no one had ever broken through to the 7th level of heaven on their first attempt. No one had been able to gain a foothold in the 7th level of heaven so quickly. The son of Tai Chu was the first person to do it. This was unprecedented. How could they not be proud? How could they not brag about it? With such amazing results, why would they hide it? How could they not dare to show off in front of others? The son of Tai Chu is really amazing. He has been so amazing since the beginning. That's right. It seems that the son of Tai Chu is a rare genius. It's not an exaggeration at all. This time, the Tai Chu tribe will create a new record. Then, they will suppress the rest of the world. No one will be able to surpass them. The Tai Chu clan is already very strong, and they will become even stronger. No one can stop them, and no one can stop them. While the crowd was in awe and imagining the future of the Tai Chu clan, the son of the Tai Chu clan in the 7th level of heaven pointed at Chu Yang without any warning. The crowd fell silent again. However, the son of the Absolute Beginning only pointed at Chu Yang. He didn't say anything and didn't do anything. However, this was already enough. The son of the Absolute Beginning was declaring war against Chu Yang. He was telling Chu Yang and everyone else that he was the most peerless and invincible. He was stronger than Chu Yang. He was number one. No matter how amazing Chu Yang was, it was all useless. Chu Yang just smiled, but he couldn't help but feel anger rising in his heart. It's just the 7th level of heaven, how can you compare that? How dare you point at me and provoke me in front of others? Interesting, ha. The son of all beasts laughed and intervened. Everyone was shocked. Then, they saw the son of all beasts rush into the 7th level of heaven. He floated up and down violently. He was in a worse state than the son of Tai Chu, but in the end, he also stopped at the 7th level of heaven. Boom. Everyone was shocked. The son of all beasts had done it. In the past, the highest record had been set by 2 people at the beginning. It was shocking. Swoosh. However, the crowd was still in shock. They saw another figure rush toward the 8th level of heaven. He wanted to surpass the highest record of the starting ground. Everyone was shocked. Chapter 1745. Xiao Qiuyu. Sword Pavilions, Xiao Qiuyu. Xiao Qiuyu is too arrogant. He's actually trying to break through to the 8th level of heaven. Rumble. While everyone was shocked, Xiao Qiuyu's body rumbled under the immense pressure, and the sound of thousands of swords rang out. Then, he stood firmly on the 8th level of heaven. But what shocked everyone was that he landed on the 7th level of heaven on his own. Fuck, do you have to go all out just to prove that you're not on the same level as me? The son of all beasts' eyes widened as he rebuked Xiao Qiuyu. Am I as senseless as you? Xiao Qiuyu was still coughing blood, but he couldn't help but roll his eyes. Yes, the son of all beasts said with incomparable certainty, you were definitely trying to prove that you're at least on the same level as that bastard Chu. Xiao Qiuyu didn't say anything. He really didn't want to fall behind Chu Yang too much. When the Son of Absolute Beginning saw that Xiao Qiu Yu had successfully stood firmly on the 8th level of heaven, his face was already very ugly. When he heard the two's words, his face couldn't help but burn. He was just happy. How long had it been since he showed off? It hadn't even warmed up, and he was immediately slapped in the face. Especially when he had just provoked Chu Yang, and whether it was Xiao Qiu Yu or the Son of All Beasts, they all admitted that they were inferior to Chu Yang. Rumble. Everyone's reaction to the words of Xiao Qiu Yu and the Son of All Beasts was also intense. They couldn't help but look at Chu Yang, making Chu Yang the focus of everyone's attention. These two guys. Chu Yang couldn't help but smile bitterly when he saw everyone's gaze. The more surprised people were now, the louder the mocking laughter would be later. The Son of Destiny has also entered the 7th level. The Son of Light has also entered the 7th level. The Son of Underworld has also entered. Hu Wushuang and Feng Xinglei have also rushed up. 5 Poisons has also rushed up. The scene became even more lively, like 100 barges racing against the current, shocking everyone. As Heaven's favorites entered the 7th level one after another, everyone was shocked beyond words. This was something that had never happened before. In the past, it was already very shocking for someone to be able to reach the 7th level. Most of the time, no one was able to break through to the 7th level. However, this time, there were actually so many people charging into the 7th level in unison, and it simply broke everyone's understanding. How could they not be shocked? The Son of Absolute Beginning grimaced. He couldn't keep his face anymore. If one of them could reach the 7th floor, it would be a slap to his face. In just a short while, his face was already swollen. He was as proud as he was before, but now, he was as embarrassed as he was. The arrogance of the Taichu tribe was completely gone, and their expressions were extremely ugly. Previously they were complacent, thinking that they had created amazing results. But now, the so-called amazing results were bullshit. Although their results seemed shocking, the Taichu tribe was not the only one who could do it. Others could do it as well. This made the Taichu tribe look like a joke. Very quickly, many people's gazes once again landed on Chu Yang. What kind of astonishing thing could Chu Wudi create? Perhaps even the 9th layer of heaven wouldn't be a problem. Who was Chu Wudi? He was an existence who had suppressed many heaven's favorites by himself, just like the Son of Destiny, Son of Light, Son of Underworld, 5 Poisons, Hu Wushuang, and the others who had rushed up to the 7th layer of heaven. Which one of them had not been suppressed by him? They had even all become white stripes in the wave. The Son of Destiny and the others could rush up to the 7th layer of heaven. What was impossible for someone like Chu Wudi to rush up to the 9th layer of heaven? Chapter 1746. Based on Chu Wudi's personality, I think he'll try to reach the 9th level of heaven later. No, he'll be cautious. He'll feel it first before he tries. Does he still need to try? The destined child and the others can reach the 7th level. With this as a benchmark, it's enough. I think he's going to make a fool of himself later. He'll sing about how lonely it is to be invincible. Haha. Everyone thought so, but the Taichu tribe started to worry. Based on the current situation, it might be true. If Chu Wudi succeeded, the Taichu clan would be utterly humiliated this time. Who asked them to provoke Chu Wudi before this? Sigh. Many elders of the Taichu tribe started to sigh. They thought that it would be a glorious day for the Taichu tribe. Who would have thought that it would turn out like this? They became a foil for others. Not only did they lose their luster, but they also became the subject of ridicule. Damn it. It's all because of that damned Chu Wudi. Was Chu Wudi born to embarrass the Taichu tribe? Chu Wudi, the group of elders from the Taichu tribe, was extremely short of breath. This so-called Chu Wudi really made them feel very powerless. The Flame Worship Sect, Wind Thunder Holy Tribe, Divine Light Religion, and Nether tribe were happy to see this. They said that they would share happiness and misfortune together. They should not be the only ones to be humiliated. The Tai Chu tribe should be humiliated as well. Everything was waiting for Chu Yang to humiliate the Tai Chu tribe. Therefore, many eyes were on Chu Yang. Damn it. I'm going to be ridiculed this time. Chu Yang was very depressed. He finally realized that being famous was not a good thing. It was too easy to attract attention. Every action was magnified and had more meanings attached to it. Just like what was happening now. Swoosh. He finally moved. However, to everyone's surprise, he did not attempt to reach the 9th level of heaven. Instead, he went directly to the 19th level of heaven, which was the level that represented the human realm. What's going on? What is Chu Wudi doing? He should be more powerful than this. What is he trying to do? The Son of Absolute Beginning had provoked him. Wouldn't he fight back? Chu Wudi is definitely not that kind of person. Let alone the onlookers, even the Son of Absolute Beginning, the Son of Light, and the Son of Dark were astonished by Chu Yang's action. They tried to guess what Chu Yang wanted to do, but they couldn't figure it out. Xiao Xiao, what do you think that thing is going to do? I feel that it's impossible for that thing to not do anything. The Son of All Beasts asked Xiao Qiuyu. As for Xiao Xiao, she was Xiao Xiao and she was Xiao Qiu. The Son of All Beasts copied Chu Yang and called him Xiao Qiu as Xiao Xiao. Xiao Qiuyu didn't pay attention to him at all. He didn't acknowledge the so-called Xiao Xiao at all. He treated it as if the Son of All Beasts wasn't talking to him. Sword God, that should be fine, right? The Son of All Beasts didn't know what to do with Xiao Qiuyu. Why don't you tell me what Eggy is trying to do? He and I are birds of a feather, but I can't figure it out. I'm afraid there must be something going on. Just mind your own business. Xiao Qiuyu glanced at the Son of All Beasts because he couldn't help but be puzzled. He added, I think he has a different idea, but I still don't understand it. However, it should be related to the turbidity below. Turbidity? The Son of 10,000 Beasts' eyes widened when he heard this. Turbidity could corrupt one's body and soul, but what use was that? Chapter 1747. Was there anything in the world that was completely useless? For Chu Yang, there was no such thing. Everything had its use. It was just a matter of whether you could discover its use or not. If it were anything else, he would not waste his time pondering over it. However, this was the turbidity that erupted with the initial qi. He did not believe that it was completely useless. Assuming that this turbidity was completely useless, it wouldn't affect him in the slightest. But if it was useful, then there would definitely be a heaven-shaking secret hidden within it. The benefits he would obtain from it would definitely be unimaginable. Perhaps this turbid substance is of equal value to the primordial qi. Chu Yang entered the 19th level with such doubts. As soon as he entered, he was like a huge rock falling into the water. The turbidity below could not support him, and he was about to sink. At the same time, although the initial qi above was not pure enough, it was extremely heavy. It was like a giant's hand that wanted to crush him, a huge rock, into the turbidity. I can only resist it with my cultivation. In an instant, Chu Yang understood why so many people sank directly. The pressure was indeed great. Even with his cultivation, he felt that such pressure was unusual. After he stabilized himself, he tried to touch the turbidity below. However, he was extremely careful. As soon as his feet sank into the turbidity, he immediately floated up. He kept trying. This made him look like a ball bobbing in the water. I understand now. Chu Wudi is only in the primordial soul realm. He doesn't have a godhead to resist the huge pressure of the initial qi. That's why he doesn't dare to barge into the 9-tiered heaven palace directly. Chu Yang's actions were a bit strange. Countless gazes fell on him, and when they realized that he was straining, someone immediately realized this and shouted out loudly. Everyone seemed to have a sudden realization and completely understood. So that's how it is. No wonder. No godhead. This is the limitation of the realm. If it were me, I would be careful too. Chu Wudi's strength is indeed amazing. However, it's probably impossible for him to withstand the initial qi with his physical body. I thought he was the most eye-catching one. I never thought that in the end it would not be him. Chu Wudi did not have a godhead. The Tai Chu tribe members started to laugh. The starting child's heart also relaxed. He let out a long sigh. Almost all of his shame had disappeared. Although he had been slapped in the face by the other prodigies, Chu Yang did not have the ability to do so. Thus, he could still save his own face. I was wondering how great he was. He's also restricted by his cultivation level. An elder from the Tai Chu clan even mocked Chu Yang. Who says he isn't? Let me see just how he can still do it. The old man from the Five Poisons sect immediately mocked Chu Yang. Without the Qi of Genesis, he will fall far behind. He will definitely not be able to catch up, and can only fall behind and eat the dust. Serves him right. As the old saying goes, you can't be too arrogant. Otherwise, the higher you climb, the harder you fall. He's the best example. The Flame Worship sect and the Nether tribe did not hold back. They took the opportunity to trample on Chu Yang. Many people felt sorry for Chu Yang. Without the Qi of Genesis, the result was too different. Perhaps in the future, the opponents that Chu Yang had humiliated before could turn around and humiliate him. Chu Yang ignored all of this. After a little test, he realized that the turbidity below him was not so terrible that he could not accept it. Hence, the next time, he did not go deeper. He went straight to his knees. He looked like he could not withstand the pressure and was pressed into the turbidity. Many people were surprised and could not believe it. Humph, even if I don't have a godhead, I can't be so weak. I can't even withstand such pressure. How ridiculous. Chapter 1748. Indeed, it's a little weak. The absolute beginning continued. That layer represents the human realm. Above it is the primordial qi, and below it is turbid. The pressure is indeed not very strong. It's just so. The son of absolute beginning suddenly spoke. He was stunned. He actually said such words. It was very unprofessional. At the same time, he realized that he really had a big problem with this Chu Wudi. It doesn't matter. I don't think he can do anything. Then, he thought for a while and didn't take it seriously. Instead, he focused on the 8th layer of heaven. If Shao Qiyu could enter the 8th layer of heaven, he would definitely be able to and leave the Son of Destiny and the others behind. What is the Son of Grace doing? The Son of Light was secretly amused when he heard the others mocking Chu Yang. Especially someone like Five Poisy, who looked down on Chu Yang. Did he not know that it would make him look even worse? He was simply brainless. Because of this, he also realized that some people could always make smart people become stupid because of jealousy. Therefore, he was very alert. I don't know. The Son of Grace shook his head and said, but he must have his reasons for doing this. Let's take turns to pay attention to his actions. Yes, Son of Grace. 2 voices answered. One was the Son of Light, and the other was the war god of the Radiant God cult. At this moment, they were all gathered around the Son of Grace. Chu-Yi Shao Chuyu was also paying attention to Chu Yang's actions. However, most people stopped paying attention after their interest was over. Sizzle! Sizzle! Chu Yang's calf was corroded by the turbid energy, and white smoke billowed out. He felt that the corrosion and destruction weren't very strong. What he was most afraid of was the invasion and corrosion of the turbid energy. Without a sound, his leg that had sunk into the turbidity instantly had the turbidity seeping into his bone marrow. He was scared out of his wits and immediately floated up. However, as soon as he touched the primordial qi above him, he immediately found that the primordial chi automatically integrated into his calf and merged with the turbid energy. It became something new and was absorbed by his flesh and blood. Just as I thought, this turbidity does have its uses. Chu Yang was overjoyed. He couldn't help but smile. Then, he carefully felt his legs. There was a very obvious difference. After the initial aura merged with the turbid part, something seemed to be interweaving in his flesh and blood. The part that didn't come into contact with the turbid part also absorbed the initial aura, but it wasn't absorbed at all. Instead, it was destroying his flesh and blood. Is turbidity used to absorb the primordial chi? Chu Yang was puzzled. Actually, this effect was enough. After all, in this way, there was no need to refine the initial chi. However, he felt that there should be something else. All of a sudden, he sensed that there were rule lines emerging from his flesh and blood. His heart trembled. Rule lines, they're fusing into my flesh and blood. No, this is allowing the flesh to give birth to its own laws. Such a discovery caused Chu Yang to be completely enlightened. The physical body carried the Tao. Generally speaking, whether it was the heavenly soul world or the myriad divine world, all of them used their spirit to comprehend the Tao, and then create a carrier to carry the Tao they comprehended. This carrier was called the Dharma idol in the heavenly soul world, but it was called the Godhead in the myriad divine world. Very few people would imprint Tao on their body. To be more precise, the physical body was completely abandoned. Because if one wanted to use the body to carry the Tao, they would have to turn the body into the Dharma idol or the Godhead. This was too difficult and too dangerous. In other words, it was impossible, so they could only give up. I don't have a Godhead, can I do this? Chapter 1749. In the God world, the God sparks were indestructible and hard to break. If he could succeed, his body would be immortal. No one could stand shoulder to shoulder with him. Thus, if he succeeded, he would shock the entire world. Fuck. Where can I find such a good fortune? I almost became like those idiots who picked up a sesame seed and threw away a watermelon. He didn't hesitate anymore. His body sank into the turbid water. After he had absorbed a certain amount of turbid water, he immediately floated up to absorb the initial chi. This repeated over and over again. When the others saw this, they immediately began to ridicule him with sarcastic voices. What Chu Wudi? He couldn't even resist that kind of pressure on that level. He was pushed into the turbid water. The old man of the 5 poison sect sneered. Being polluted by the turbid water, he will regress a lot. It will be difficult for him to advance further. That's right. He will stop at the incipient God realm. The old man of the Tai Chu tribe looked at the others and smiled. Guys, believe it? In the past, there have been such cases. People who are polluted by the turbid water can't advance further for the rest of their lives. It's been proven. Future? The man of the flame worship God sect sneered. Does he have a future? Perhaps he won't be able to endure it. He will be drowned by the turbid water and die in there. His body won't even be left. Their resentment toward Chu Yang was too big. The Tai Chu tribe was still okay, but what about the others? All of them had been humiliated by Chu Yang before. Now that they saw Chu Yang in such a state, how could they let him go? Because of the mocking from the big forces, many people paid attention to Chu Yang. Seeing his current condition, they couldn't help but shake their heads. Some even laughed wildly. Haha, Chu Wudi is finished. He's finished. Let's see how arrogant he can be in the future. Being polluted by the turbid water, he won't be able to rise again. Let's wait and see the joke. What a bullshit genius. What bullshit invincible. The initial chi and turbidity are the best test criteria. The previous ones were just luck, tricks, and external objects. There's nothing strange about them. Xiao Qiu and the Blessed Child could not understand, but they were not that stupid. Chu Yang could not be so weak, but they did not know what he was doing. There were many people with clear minds like the two of them. Therefore, they couldn't help but pay more attention to Chu Yang. As far as they were concerned, it was impossible for such a person to speak without thinking. He must have his own reasons for doing so. There were quite a few people who thought of this. Therefore, some people were already taking the risk to try and get in touch with the turbidity. They felt that Chu Yang might have discovered some kind of shocking secret. This was a gamble. Once the gamble was successful, it would be unimaginable. It would definitely be extremely shocking, obtaining unmatched benefits. For example, Chu Yang, Zhuojin, and his two brothers were all trying this. After discovering the secret, their eyes immediately lit up, but they gritted their teeth tightly and restrained themselves, not revealing the slightest bit of their emotions. The initial qi would continue to spurt out, but the turbidity was limited. If others discovered it and divided it among many people, the amount of turbidity they would obtain would be much less. When they thought of this, these three brothers became even more cautious, fearing that others would discover it. If they were really exposed because of them, not to mention Chu Yang, they would not let themselves go. Can I take the initiative to guide it? Chu Yang was wholeheartedly immersed in cultivation, forgetting about everything else. He felt that the turbidity and initial qi were too slow in producing regulations, so he tried a new experiment. I have the void lotus on me, as well as an accelerated regulations of time. Can I fuse them with the turbidity and initial qi, and then let my corporeal body absorb the regulations of time and space? Chapter 1750. Forgetting everything, a smile appeared on Chu Yang's face. Then, he thought, the regulations of time can't only fall on my legs. I have to spread them all over my body. That's the true embodiment of the physical body. Brother Woody, first of all, I'd like to express my endless gratitude, but can you not laugh? You'll easily be exposed like this, and those idiots from the Tai Chu tribe will find out. That'll be too much of a loss. Suddenly, a voice drilled into Chu Yang's mind. He woke up with a start and turned his head to look. There were three people on his left who looked very similar. They all had the backs of tigers and waists of bears. At this moment, the three of them were also absorbing the turbidity like him. He couldn't help but be surprised. Then, he realized that it wasn't just these three brothers. Many others had discovered the mystery from him and were doing the same. He couldn't help but sweat. Fuck, the people in this world are all idiot. It's all a lie. If I think anyone is an idiot, I'm an idiot. Brother Woody, remember, you're the center of attention, the center of attention. You have to pay attention to your every move. You're too obvious when you turn your head. I feel like I'm almost exposed. Brother Woody, I beg you, please? Although the food is for everyone to eat, you can't destroy everyone's rice bowl after just eating a little. The complaining voices sounded again. Chu Yang was almost stunned. It turned out that he was so unreliable that he would do such a stupid thing. Fuck. This time, he was really sweating. If he was exposed because of him, he would definitely be cursed, and all 18 generations of his ancestors would be cursed. Send a message, work secretly, and don't do anything that's obvious. Chu Yang sent a voice transmission declaring in advance, "It's not my fault that one piece of rat shit spoils the whole pot of soup. I'll kill whoever dares to expose himself. Fuck, my fortune has been stolen. I'll definitely fight to the death with him. Master Woody, you should take care of yourself. If the others are exposed, I'll definitely teach them a lesson without you doing anything." Chu Yang realized that he was being blamed again. He originally wanted to sink into the turbidity, but he actually had to hesitate. Haha, that's great. Young Master has entered the 8th level of heaven. At this moment, the Son of Absolute Beginning entered the 8th level from the 7th level, attracting everyone's attention. Chu Yang was delighted. Thank you, Son of the Absolute Beginning, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Ha! Chu Wuti laughed in his heart. His whole body directly fell into the turbidity, straight to the bottom of the 18th floor, making the eyelids of the people around him twitch. They cursed in their hearts, "Chu Wuti, you bastard, can't you watch your table manners?" However, although they were cursing like this, they all sank into the turbid waters. When Chu Yang rushed up, he suddenly heard the sound of blood spurting out. Then, he heard Xiao Qiu Yu's blood-curdling scream. When he looked over, Xiao Qiu Yu was falling from the 7th layer of heaven. Everyone was shocked, especially those who were secretly absorbing the turbidity. This was because Xiao Qiu just so happened to land beside Chu Yang. At this moment, Chu Yang had absorbed too much, and his entire body was yellow. Xiao Xiao, the son of 10,000 beasts, also let out a mournful and panic-stricken scream, which made Chu Yang's heart skip a beat. Then, he was struck by lightning. The son of 10,000 beasts was screaming so miserably as if his beloved woman had died. What the fuck, could his acting be so realistic? Look at how professional Xiao Qiu Yu was. He even spat out blood. After Chu Yang cursed in his heart, he concluded that Xiao Qiu Yu and the son of all beasts must have found some clues. What about the others? He immediately screamed in his heart, "No way, I'm going to become the rat poop in a hot pot." His life's reputation was going to be destroyed in a day. Every time he thought about it, it would become the most painful and glaring past. He couldn't accept it. He definitely couldn't accept it. Chapter 1751. One of the reasons was that a rat's excrement was too unpleasant to hear, but the real reason was that a man's greed was like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. Chu Yang was too greedy, so he was really worried about being discovered. The amount of turbid matter he swallowed just now was shocking enough. What would it be like to become a fatty after eating a mouthful of rice? It was more or less what he did just now. The 21 worlds of the 21 souls, the 11 heavenly passages, and the 2 worlds of his divine and demonic martial spirits were activated at the same time. That devouring ability was simply indescribable. It was much more terrifying than the Taodai. It was practically world-shaking. At the bottom of the turbid matter, Chu Yang only swallowed slightly. He didn't even use any strength, and the turbid matter was almost emptied out, revealing the stuffing. He had no choice but to stop. Only when he was climbing up did he dare to continue swallowing. And in such a short time, he had swallowed almost half of the turbid matter by himself. At that time, if anyone had paid a little attention, they would have immediately discovered the abnormality. Even if someone had paid attention to him now, they would certainly have discovered the clues. Because too much turbid matter had gathered in his body, it had a great attraction to the initial qi. The initial qi began to madly pour into Chu Yang's body. The 3 brothers who were closest to him could clearly feel this change. Xiao Qiu Yu and the son of all beasts could obviously feel this change even more, because they were right beside Chu Yang. As expected, Xiao Qiu Yu wasn't too surprised, but he secretly regretted that he had discovered it too late. This grandson, he didn't even inform us when there were benefits. He ate it all by himself. What a fucking bastard. The son of all beasts didn't have a good taste in his heart. He clearly noticed that the turbid matter below had become lighter. From this, he completely knew how ruthless that bastard Chu Yang's mouth was. He had almost finished eating it all. Chu Yang had swallowed too much turbid matter. His entire body was yellow, as if he had been fished out of yellow mud. Moreover, he was continuously corroded, emitting white smoke. He was in a very sorry state and looked very funny. Where was the invincible charm? Where was the graceful bearing of looking down on all the heaven's prides? Haha, what so-called Chu Wuti, he's finished. He fell into the turbid matter and was completely corroded by it. The old man from the primordial tribe laughed the loudest and most delightfully. Not only did the initial child of their clan successfully break into the 8th level of the celestial palace, But his opponent had also fallen into the turbidity and was unable to take care of himself. Moreover, his Taoist foundation had been destroyed. This was simply a double blessing. If you fall into the turbidity, you'll definitely be corroded and corroded to death. Why don't you just end it yourself so that you don't have to suffer like you're not dead? The 5 poison sect's laughter was the most ear-piercing. He mocked, "What dog-fart invincibility? You are not even dog-fart. You could not even withstand that bit of pressure on the mere 19th floor, let alone others. It's a pity that we can't avenge ourselves. No matter how much we humiliate a piece of trash like him, it's useless." The people of the sect of Flame were also very happy. They tried their best to ridicule Chu Yang. At this time, the Scion of Grace Chu Yi brought the Scion of Light and the War God to Chu Yang's floor without anyone noticing. Damn, Chu Wudi is really good at attracting attention. He can even do this. The 3 brothers near Chu Yang were shocked to the extreme. Those people from the primordial tribe, are they blind or stupid? Poof! Chapter 1752. How savage! Chu Wudi's friends are really going to swallow the heavens and devour the earth. The 3 of them began to sweat. Xiao Xiao, the son of all beasts, howled miserably as if his beloved woman had died. It made them blush with shame. They felt that they were far inferior. They couldn't do such an ugly and full of flaws. Motherfucker, you 2 pigs. The fight for the origin chi has already started, and you still want to compete. Now you're dead, and Xiao Xiao is going to die too. The son of all beasts scolded Chu Yang. Then, he rushed into the turbidity to save Xiao Qiuyu, but no one doubted him. Even such bad acting skills can, not to mention the 3 brothers, even the others who were secretly absorbing the turbidity were completely shocked. They were so shocked that their eyeballs almost fell to the ground. Chu Yang's friends, one more exaggerated than the other, one more unreliable than the other. They were all exposed, but none of them were discovered. It was so bizarre, but the result was so magical. When they heard the sound of sudden realization, they actually believed the son of all beasts' nonsense. Their expressions were wonderful, and their mood was completely indescribable. Amazing, truly amazing. The primordial tribe, sect of Flame, 5 poison sect, and the others really made them prostrate themselves in admiration. Hiss! Then, they realized that the turbidity seemed to have become clearer. They couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Their backs were cold, and they couldn't help but curse in their hearts. #yen%, #yen, motherfucker, as expected of Chu Wudi's friends. You guys are also amazing. These people were completely crazy. Unfortunately, they weren't gluttons. They ate to the point of bursting to death. Compared to Chu Wudi's gang of scoundrels, the amount they absorbed was simply insignificant. It was so little that they wanted to cry. This was what they discovered first. Chu Yang's eyes also widened. He cursed in his heart, "These guys, although they can't compare to me, their stomachs are too big. Who can save me?" He immediately jumped in the air, and then, he couldn't hold on and fell down again. These people instantly became even more speechless. Chu Wudi was also completely exaggerating. He didn't cover up the slightest bit and truly treated some people as complete idiot. However, haha. The primordial race laughed even more happily. This is Chu Wudi, this is the so-called Chu Wudi. He is so invincible, haha. Humph. The primordial child at the 8th level couldn't help but snort with disdain. Damn it, Chu Wudi dying like this is simply letting him off too easily. Although 5 Poison Lord was happy in his heart, he still felt that it wasn't enough. His face was full of resentment. He really got off too easy. Feng Xinglei, Hu Wushuang, Underworld Child, and the others all felt that it was too easy for Chu Yang to die just like that. Haha. The Flame Worship Sex people also laughed out loud. Idiot, you're just digging your own grave. The absolute beginning aura is the most important thing. After the absolute beginning aura erupts, you're still fighting to the death. Ridiculous. The people who were secretly collecting the turbidity were completely dumbfounded this time. The Tai Chu clan's people actually understood it this way? After that, these people's actions became even more exaggerated. They even complained to themselves, why be so careful? Look at how Chu Wudi and his gang of scoundrels are doing. How are they bullying people? They're so inferior, but they still played the fool in the palm of their hands. It wasn't that Chu Wudi's actions were too exaggerated, it was just that they couldn't see through it. Comparing oneself to others was simply infuriating. Chapter 1753. Xiao Qiuyu is stupid, but Chu Wudi is even more stupid. No, both of them were defeated by the word proud, and they will die by the word proud. That's right, it's good to encounter some setbacks. Otherwise, they will be like these two people, wasting their supreme talent for nothing and dying of stupidity. They are already seriously injured, but they still dare to fight for the initial chi. They don't know what they are talking about. Not only the Genesis tribe and sect of Flame, but also the Wind Thunder tribe, Underworld tribe, and other major forces could not help but sneer and gloat. It was a pity that they could not beat the dog that fell into the water. However, who would care? After those people who were collecting the turbid substance heard the news, they became even more brazen. After absorbing the turbid substance to the limit, they immediately floated up to absorb the initial chi. This caused the scene to become a little strange. Gradually, people realized that those who came were those people. They could not help but shake their heads and say, "Sigh, these people are not strong enough. Why do they have to struggle so hard? The sooner they get out of the sea of bitterness, the sooner they can be free." Chu Yang struggled the most violently and exaggeratedly. He kept falling into the turbid substance, and kept rushing up. Sometimes, he even rushed up to the third and fourth heavenly palaces, crazily devouring the initial chi, and then fell down again. Ha ha! The Genesis tribe laughed even louder and more sarcastically. "Chu Wudi, are you performing acrobatics?" "Brother, you are wrong. Chu Wudi is in so much pain now. He is screaming miserably as if he just came out of a pot of oil and fell into a pot of oil again and again. It's tragic. We need to have some sympathy." As soon as the five poison sect finished speaking, the sect of Flame said, "Brother, you are right. Chu Wudi is so miserable that I can't help but feel pity for him." Immediately, the sect of Flame person said to Chu Yang, "Chu Wudi is in so much pain. Why do you still struggle? The sooner you die, the sooner you can be reincarnated. Don't you think so?" "Ha!" Chu Yang screamed miserably and rushed up again. He almost could not hold back his laughter, so he immediately laughed and said, "Old man, you won't understand even if I tell you. Pain is also a part of life. You should learn it." "Humph, you still dare to be stubborn at this time. Then you'll suffer." The voice of the old man from the sect of Flame was extremely sarcastic and cold. Those who were secretly absorbing the turbid substance almost couldn't hold back their laughter. However, at this moment they heard a laugh that made them feel incredulous. "Haha, I understand. So turbidity actually has such a miraculous effect. Agag, you're really not being honest. Son of all beasts." They were all dumbstruck. It turned out that there were fools on their side. The son of all beasts suddenly felt that something was wrong. He saw that Chu Yang, Xiao Qiuyu, and the blessed child were all looking at him with murderous gazes. He immediately shivered and quickly covered his mouth. Chu Yang was speechless. The rest of the people were also speechless. Xiao Qiuyu rolled his eyes. It was hopeless, completely hopeless. Wasn't this the same as admitting defeat? Even if he wanted to redeem himself, it was impossible. Absorbing turbid substance. Haha. However, the strange thing was that after the tribe of Genesis heard this, they were stunned for a moment. Then, they laughed wildly as if they had heard the funniest joke in the world. The son of all beasts' eyes widened to the size of copper bells. He also felt that it was inconceivable and unbelievable. Just now, he was already stupid enough. However, there were still people in the world who sympathized with him and far surpassed him. Son of all beasts, you're acting like this. It seems that your brain is really damaged? His brain is not damaged. The people of the Five Venoms sect said coldly. He wants to deceive us. He wants us to go down. This is really unreasonable. Chapter 1754. Ha ha! The son of all beasts was like a cluster of flames, igniting a raging bonfire. Those who were originally absorbing the turbid substance were already having a hard time holding back their laughter. Now they completely let go of their laughter, almost dying from laughter. Something's not right. Look, why did the turbid substance on the 18th floor become so clear? Finally, someone discovered the clue and exclaimed in shock. They are really devouring the turbid substance. Oh my God, they are crazy. They are not crazy. It must be that the turbid substance has a great mystery, and Chu Wuti has discovered it. He is devouring it crazily. That's right. The three men beside Chu Wuti have fallen into the turbid substance countless times, but they are still alive. There must be something behind it. Boom! In the midst of Chu Yang and the others' laughter, the crowd exploded into an uproar, instantly becoming extremely noisy. At this moment, the people of the Genesis tribe, Flame Worship Sect, Five Poison Sect, and the others heard and saw all this, and their minds were blown. No way, how is this possible? The turbid substance has long been proven to be harmful and not beneficial. This is impossible. This is absolutely impossible. Don't be fooled by those fools. Once the turbid substance is absorbed, the consequences are simply unimaginable. If it's light, your cultivation will not be able to progress. If it's heavy, your cultivation will be crippled, and you will even be corroded to death. That's right. Whoever absorbs the turbid substance is definitely the biggest fool in the world. Chu Wuti, do you really think we are fools? Ridiculous. The elders of the Flame Worship Sect, Five Poison Sect, and the others spoke out, and immediately the chaotic crowd returned to calm, and it was not as chaotic as before. Many people even agreed and spoke out one after another. That's right. The starting ground is controlled by the Genesis tribe. If the turbid substance has any mystery, how could the Genesis tribe not know about it? It doesn't make sense. That's right. Don't be blinded by it and make a stupid decision. Otherwise, it will be too late for regret. After all, there is no medicine for regret in this world. It's better to be cautious. It's not advisable to act rashly. The crowd returned to calm, and the people of the Genesis tribe could not help but feel relieved. However, haha, this is too funny. Ouch, my stomach. Oh my God, I'm about to die of laughter, but it doesn't seem funny at all. But why am I laughing so hard? Chu Yang didn't find it funny either, but for some reason, when he heard the sarcasm, he laughed like crazy. He laughed so hard that tears almost flowed out. An old man from the primordial race couldn't bear the laughter and couldn't help but ask, could it be that this turbid substance is really mysterious? That should be impossible. An old man from the underworld race said, we've studied this turbid substance, but we didn't find anything special about it. An old man from the Five Poison Sect also nodded in agreement. We once merged this turbid substance with the strong poison, greatly increasing its power. Therefore, if you say it's harmful, I believe it. But if you say it's beneficial, then it's definitely a joke. Haha. The old man from the sect of Flame laughed and said to the old man from the Genesis tribe, Taoist brother, don't be surprised. Could it be that you're also deceived by such a small trick? The turbid substance has decreased, and the turbid substance has become clear. That's because the turbid substance has been completely devoured by the idiot Chu Wuti. Who's the idiot? Wait and see. Just as he was speaking, the crowd completely rioted. They madly rushed into the turbid substance, choking him and making him freeze there. Are you stupid? I've told you so clearly, but you still don't know what's good for you and rushed into the turbid substance. You're courting death. You're simply unreasonable. Wasn't this a slap in the face? He was furious, so he roared loudly. However, he found that he was powerless. Who cared about him? As more and more people rushed into the turbid substance, he was dumbfounded. Could it be that this turbid substance is really mysterious? But it should be impossible. Chapter 1755. There were many imitators, but in an instant, more people rushed into the turbid substance. What's going on? Those cautious people were completely dumbfounded at this time. However, there was no one to answer their doubts. Those who rushed into the turbid substance acted like Chu Yang and instantly discovered the wonders of it. At this time, they hated themselves for discovering it too late. How could they have the mood to talk? However, there were some who couldn't help but shout, "Sure enough, Chu Wudi is really a genius." Everyone avoids the turbid substance like a snake or scorpion, but only he discovered the mystery of it. Chu Wudi is indeed Chu Wudi, mighty. Don't snatch it, can you let me say something? Fuck, I discovered it too late, I'm really speechless. There was a great commotion, there were exclamations, curses, complaints. Many people were frantically snatching the remaining turbid substance, and some even fought over it. The scene was even more chaotic, making those who stopped to watch completely dumbfounded. The Primordial Tribe, Flame Sect, Five Poison Sect, Nether Tribe, Wind God Tribe, and others began to feel uneasy at this moment. Chu Wudi is an idiot, Chu Wudi is really an idiot. With so many people, the turbid substance would soon be snatched clean. Among them, some who had grudges with the Primordial Tribe, Flame Sect, Five Poison Sect, and others began to make sarcastic remarks. That's right, Chu Wudi is really the #1 idiot in the world. I'm dying of laughter, haha. He's not just the #1 idiot in the world, he has never seen such an idiot like him. He actually dared to absorb the poisonous substance that has been proven to be harmful. Chu Wudi, this is really the most stupid decision. More people echoed, and their tone was even more sarcastic, full of sarcasm and sarcasm. It seemed that they were mocking Chu Yang, but it was self-evident who they were mocking because these words were almost the same as those who mocked Chu Yang just now. Could it be that the turbid substance is really a treasure? This is impossible, this is absolutely impossible. The people from the Primordial clan were still in disbelief. However, their voices were already trembling. Chu Yang looked at their appearance and sneered in his heart, but he did not find it strange. They were naturally not stupid, but they were bound by their inherent understanding. But what they did was so silly. Who are you laughing at? Ha ha. The mocking laughter that filled the skies caused the originally dazzling first child, who was in the 8th level of heavens, to feel blood rush to his face. He couldn't help but recall the disdainful words he used to mock Chu Yang. That's all there is to it. Humph. Although that humph did not say anything, it had said everything. He had definitely thought that Chu Yang was a fool, but what about now? At this moment, the first child felt as if he was in the depths of hell. He couldn't wait to escape immediately. The so-called primordial chi, the so-called ambition, at this time, he already didn't know what they were like. He would definitely be laughed at for a lifetime. The ears of Underworld Child, Feng Xinglei, Huo Wushuang, Five Poison Child, and other heavens' prides were also filled with ridicule. Every ridicule seemed to be telling them that they were stupid beyond the heavens. Not only did they miss the supreme opportunity, but they also became a joke. Especially when they found that the blessed child, the Son of Light, and the war god of the Divine Light cult were also on Chu Yang's side at this moment. They really wished they could bury their heads in the sand like ostriches. Why wasn't the Divine Light cult that stupid, but why were they so stupid? Chapter 1756. Very soon, the turbid substance was snatched clean. The initial child's lips began to turn white because he clearly felt that the surrounding initial chi was flowing down at an astonishing speed, destroying the last bit of hope in his heart. Every time the initial chi flowed, it was like a chapter in a story. It recorded everything and told him everything. It told him little by little how he had just made a fool of himself, how he had been tricked by Chu Wuti, how Chu Wuti had deceived him, how Chu Wuti had stolen all of his good fortune. Everything was so vivid in his mind. When he recalled it, he was really at a loss of what to do. The initial tribe, Flame Worship Sect, Five Poison Sect, and others had all become mute. They could no longer laugh, ridicule, or even say a word. Facts speak louder than words. Puff. An old man from the primordial tribe coughed out a mouthful of blood due to shame and anger. He passed out from shame. The noisy scene suddenly became quiet. Most of the people could only shake their heads and smile bitterly. They could probably understand that feeling. It was probably more uncomfortable than being cut into pieces. Bang, bang, bang. A series of muffled sounds rang out. It wasn't just the original clan, but also the Flame Worship Divine Sect, Five Poison Sect, and the others. Many of their elders were so embarrassed that they fainted, collapsing on the ground. This place was in chaos. Haha, this is indeed the best choice. Fainting is indeed the best choice. Anyway, if I faint, no matter how funny I am, what can you all laugh about? Hee hee, if they have a little bit of Chu Wuti's shamelessness, I'm afraid they will feel better. No, they don't need Chu Wuti's high moral character. If they have a little bit of brain, such a thing won't happen. I sincerely kneel down to them. That's reasonable. People who are about to die of old age can't even notice such an obvious thing, and they are still mocking and ridiculing. Who is laughing at who? Who is the joke? Now they should understand. If they had discovered it earlier, we would have been able to get a share of the loot. What a pity. Sigh. Someone also felt extremely regretful. Similar words were heard everywhere. No matter if it was the Genesis tribe or the Sect of Flame, they were all blushing and burning with shame. Moreover, they were dizzy and felt blood rushing to their heads. Even the scenery before them was blurred. The old one has no eyesight and is as stupid as a fool. The young one is also of the same lineage. As expected of the same lineage. There's no saving them, haha. The area of effect of this sentence was simply too large. The child of beginning, the child of destiny, and the others all took their seats one by one, and they almost fainted. He even mocked Chu Wuti. Sigh, I really don't have any words to describe it. How could someone like Chu Wuti be so shabby? There must be a reason behind this abnormality. They don't even understand such a basic principle. I can only use one word to describe them: awesome. Not only that, even with Chu Wuti's violent temper, he didn't react even after being ridiculed. There are 10,000 things that are wrong, yet they didn't notice it at all. What a joke. If you ask me, this isn't stupidity. It's just like what they said. They are arrogant by nature, and they look down on and belittle everyone they see. Great, this time they have completely fallen. They have fallen into a big joke, hee hee. Every sentence was ear-piercing and pierced their hearts. Every sentence that fell into the ears of the Genesis tribe was like being struck by lightning. They actually didn't see such a big flaw. They deserved to be laughed at and looked down on. At this moment, they all felt that they were stupid and wanted to slap themselves. Chapter 1757. Son of all beasts, you're just a piece of rat shit. You've ruined the whole pot of soup. The Genesis and the Sect of Fire had already started to save themselves. Chu Yang didn't care at first, but he thought that if this went on, the public opinion would be manipulated, and the fire would be transferred to him. That would be unpleasant. After all, he had collected the most turbid matter. Therefore, he narrowed his eyes slightly and thought, I can't let them lead the discussion. Immediately, he took the lead and poured oil on the fire. You're just a piece of rat shit. Rat shit. Xiao Chuyu also looked at the son of all beasts with disdain. Rat shit. The son of light also muttered. He also felt that the turbid matter he had absorbed was too little. The son of all beasts found himself speechless in the face of the public's condemnation. As the son of all beasts, he thought that he was the most shameless person in the world. He was thick-skinned and black-hearted. How could he forgive himself for doing such a kind thing? Oh, my mouth! Slap! The son of all beasts slapped himself in the face in annoyance and sighed deeply. He was like Xiang Yu who had been defeated and had no words to say to his elders. It seemed like a slap to the son of 10,000 beasts' face, but it was actually a slap to the faces of the primordial tribe and the sect of fire. It was burning hot and painful. They could only watch helplessly as a group of bastards divided the supreme treasure in front of them. What were they doing when the other party was desperately collecting the supreme treasure? You think this is enough? Grind this rat shit for me. Chu Yang saw that this was not bad and continued to add insult to injury. Many people obeyed the order and rolled up their sleeve. The son of all beasts was sweating profusely. He immediately used the method of die then die himself, and pointed at Chu Yang. You collected at least half of the turbid matter. Give me some immediately. Boom. The group of people, who had been staring at the son of all beasts like wolves and tigers, suddenly turned to stare at Chu Yang. Oh my, this thing is also good at killing a fellow Taoist rather than himself. However, Chu Yang didn't care. Even if the son of all beasts didn't reveal it, the Genesis tribe and the others would definitely reveal it. He might as well deal with them once and for all. He rolled up his sleeves and pointed at them one by one. This invincible found it, so this invincible took it. What's wrong with that? You've been living a good life with me, but in the end you dare to glare at me and bare your teeth. You guys are all ingrates. In an instant, the group of wolves and tigers lost their imposing manner. Their words were crude but reasonable. If they did not collect enough turbid matter, it was indeed because they were not capable enough. Chu Yang began to direct the fire and continued, If it weren't for this piece of rat shit, we would have made a fortune. Those fools wouldn't know what's going on. We'll take the gold and silver and show it in front of those fools, let them see the color and shine. I reckon they'll beg us to ask, brother, where did you get rich? Tell us the way, don't you think so? Everyone was speechless. Chu Yang had the face of a nouveau riche, but they found that the eyes of the Genesis tribe, the sect of flame, and the others were about to spit fire. Everyone immediately understood what was going on. Chu Yang is obviously trying to humiliate the people of the original clan. Is he trying to ruthlessly slap their faces in front of everyone? The mood of the Genesis child and the 5 poison child was even more indescribable. Ha ha! Your family is gloomy, but my family is smiling. Those who had been living a good life with Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh out loud when they heard this. They were very happy because these words hit the bottom of their hearts. Chapter 1758. On the other hand, the initial child and the other prodigies had become a joke. Even prodigies like Xiao Chuyu had no choice but to compete with them in the end. They had never thought of such a thing, nor had they ever encountered such a thing. Just thinking about it made them laugh even in their dreams. Heh heh! Chu Yang was also overjoyed. This time, he had also made a fortune in silence. He continued, Then we immediately rolled our eyes at that idiot and said, Idiot, the gold and silver treasures are right under your feet, but you didn't pick them up. Instead, you came to ask me for help. I say, you're here to humiliate me, right? Ha ha. The group of people laughed crazily again. Wasn't that so? In particular, this idiot was a supreme prodigy from the initial tribe, the flame worship sect, the initial child, the underworld child, and the other supreme prodigies. They were even more delighted. This matter was enough to be discussed for a lifetime. Chu Yang didn't want to embarrass the Origin clan. So, he ended this topic and said again, "Everyone, this invincible asks you to pay attention. This time, I will tell you the correct way to open it." He soared into the sky and landed on the 4th floor of the 9-tiered heaven. Then, he hid the time rule into the void lotus and swallowed it whole. In fact, he was so fast that no one knew what he ate. Of course, no one knew the specific process. When the void lotus and the time rule entered Chu Yang's body, he used the turbid substance to dissolve and erode it. He integrated the time rule and time rule contained in the two into the turbid substance. Chu Yang had been sensing the turbid substance for a long time and confirmed that it had a special characteristic. It could contain everything in the world and completely obliterate it. This was like a fallen leaf that fell to the ground and was corroded and decomposed. In the end, the nutrients contained in it returned to the ground again, fertilizing the soil and then allowing the soil to grow new trees. The initial qi was like the power of germination. The power of growth could make the seed germinate and grow. At this moment, Chu Yang used the time rule and time rule as the seed, the turbid substance as the soil, and the initial qi as the power of growth. We can start now. The turbid substance dissolved very quickly in the void lotus and the time rule. It was definitely a supreme divine object. Chu Yang began to guide the initial air from the periphery into his body, blending it into the turbid soil, in an attempt to make the seed germinate. Boom! In just an instant, when the initial qi was integrated into it, it immediately erupted with endless golden light. A vigorous and vast life aura surged out. Suddenly, it expanded like a rubber ball, and dazzling golden light penetrated its body. The fusion of the primordial qi and the turbid matter gave birth to the seed of the precepts of space and precepts of time. A mysterious aura burst out, as if it was the beginning of the world. It made him feel like he was enlightened. Devour. Chu Yang confirmed that his judgment was correct. He began to madly devour the initial qi and fuse it with the turbid matter. Both were quickly absorbed by his body. Rumble! The next moment, he was caught off guard, and a loud noise burst out from his body. It was as if someone had opened up the world in his body, treated him as the primordial chaos, and suddenly gave him a blow with an axe. His body shook violently, and he immediately coughed up blood. His body seemed to have cracked open, and dense blood-colored lines spread out like a spider's web. Chu Wudi, what is he doing? Could this be the correct opening method that he was talking about? Could it be that he didn't mean to tell us how to use the turbid substance? Chapter 1759. It hurts. Chu Yang wanted to curse, but recently he realized that he had cursed a little too much, so he restrained himself. However, he couldn't suppress the pain of his physical injuries. He gritted his teeth and his body trembled. With every tremble, blood splashed out and his body cracked open. He had suffered such heavy injuries from the beginning, making him wonder if he could last until the end. Carrying the Tao with the body, this wasn't easy, it was too difficult. And he had only just begun. He hadn't even carried out the true meaning of carrying the Tao with the body. Without a sound, two lines burst out from his body, a horizontal line and a vertical line. The horizontal line seemed to want to cut him in half. It cut across his waist and abdomen, revealing his intestines. It was a little horrifying. The vertical line followed the center of his body and cut down, a line of blood bursting out. Where the horizontal and vertical lines intersected, it was even more intense. There was a mess of flesh and blood like mud. Lines of law, the horizontal line is the line of time, and the vertical line is the line of space. Although Chu Yang understood, he couldn't help but grit his teeth. his heart and liver were almost scared out of their wits. If he had been directly cut just now, he would have lost half his life. The birth of law seems to be related to my thoughts. It seems to follow my preferences, but I don't know if this is good or bad. Everything was in progress and it was too late to stop it now. He could only hope that his judgment wasn't wrong. Next, where the vertical and horizontal lines intersected, it was like a seed that began to grow. His body was like soil as the roots spread out, extending into his flesh and blood. Every time the roots extended, Chu Yang felt a thin steel wire drill into his flesh, bones, and organs. He was in so much pain that he broke out in a cold sweat. It was too intense. Those roots were the law of space and time. They began to embed themselves into his body. Although the birth of law was much faster, it wasn't evenly distributed. This was an extremely great disadvantage. Turbid matter and initial energy were completely different. There was almost no pain. The law born in his flesh and blood was not only perfect, but also very evenly distributed. Comparing the two, Chu Yang didn't know which to choose. Both had their advantages and disadvantages. Maybe this isn't right at all. He endured the pain and began to think intensely. After watching for a while, people gradually saw the clues. Those are the lines of law. Chu Wudi is using the turbid matter as well as the primordial qi to embed the laws into his flesh. He plans to use his corporeal body to carry the Tao. He's walking a path of death. The person who spoke was incomparably excited and astonished. Chu Yang was actually attempting this dead-end path of martial art. Fleshly body as godhood, fleshly body as a god? That's crazy. He's crazy. Lunatic. He's definitely a lunatic. It's absolutely impossible for the fleshly body to succeed, but he actually wants to surpass his predecessors and open up a brand new path. He's destroying his own martial path and committing suicide. I'll wait and see how he dies. If he doesn't die, I'll cut off his head and let you guys kick it around like a ball. Xiao Chuyu didn't say anything, but his mind buzzed. He was shocked. Fleshly body carrying the Tao, such a crazy thing. He had previously deduced and even tried, but he couldn't do it at all. He even almost died. In the end, he completely gave up and concluded that it could only stay in his imagination. No one could make it a reality. Now, after he gave up on that thought, another person was doing the same thing, and it was Chu Wudi. Can he do it? Although he has the primordial qi and turbid matter. Chapter 1760. The eyes of the Genesis tribe, the sect of flame, and the others flickered. Apart from being shocked, they were secretly delighted. However, after suffering a loss once, they restrained their urge to ridicule. The Genesis child looked at Chu Yang without blinking. His heart was in turmoil. Carrying the Tao through the body was a completely different path. In the records of the divine world, no one had ever succeeded. However, all those that attempted to do so perished in the end, and they wrote down page after page of bloody lessons that were horrifying to the point that no one dared to attempt it in the future. He didn't dare, but Chu Wudi dared. This made him realize the difference between him and Chu Wudi. At least in terms of courage, he was not as good as Chu Wudi. The initial child closed his eyes in pain. This kind of inferiority was not only reflected in this, but also in the previous understanding of the turbid things. Previously, he thought that the turbid things were absolutely worthless, but Chu Wudi just happened to discover the mystery of it. Impossible, that's only for ordinary people. For those extraordinary people, it's impossible for them to be conquered. Somehow, the Genesis child had such a feeling in his heart, Chu Wudi could succeed. To be honest, he hated this feeling too much. Cough, cough. Chu Yang kept coughing up blood. His face was distorted, revealing an extremely painful expression. From the intersection of the horizontal lines and horizontal lines, many fine filament-like lines of law ran from his lower abdomen to his back, and everything that they met, they all ran through savagely. His internal organs, ribs, spine, and so on were all damaged. Then, the lines of law began to integrate into his flesh and blood. Fortunately, the turbid matter and the Genesis chi burst out with vigorous vitality. It had a great healing power and healed the injuries on his body. No, this isn't right. Chu Yang felt that something was wrong, but for a moment, he grasped that feeling. Then, he finally understood. I'm like a modified person, forcibly embedding some kind of ability into the body. He noticed that the compatibility with the lines of law was not enough, and the integration was not perfect. He was definitely unable to exert the greatest power, leaving behind a huge flaw. In a battle, such a flaw was grasped by the enemy. That would be fatal. What should I do? The deviation has already appeared. How can I return to the beginning? Crash. He closed his eyes and fell into deep contemplation. Then, the sound of flowing water could be heard from his body. People could only see a turbid substance gushing out, corroding the newly formed law lines bit by bit. After a long time, all the law lines disappeared. Turbid matter actually has such a miraculous effect. Doesn't this mean that turbid matter can reshape one's godhood? The Genesis tribe, the Flame Worship sect, the Five Poison sect, the Underworld tribe, and the others were all shocked when they saw this scene. Their eyes lit up and burned with hope. However, it quickly dimmed down and they couldn't help but grit their teeth. Some of them even slapped themselves fiercely in the face, feeling extremely vexed. Damn it! The turbid matter is even more miraculous than the origin chi. But what was I doing just now? What was I laughing about? How could this be? I actually missed such a divine object. Chu Wudi actually wasted such a divine item. The godhood was the carrier of the laws. Once it was successfully condensed, it was very difficult to change. There were too many people in the divine realm who only discovered the various flaws in their godhood after condensing it and increasing their cultivation base. However, they couldn't change it at all. They could only look at it and sigh. Chapter 1761. However, such a possibility had just been born in front of their eyes, but they had just brushed past it. One could imagine how they felt. At this moment, they even had the thought of killing themselves. It can be erased, but what should I do next? Chu Yang fell into deep thought for a long time. Suddenly, he thought of a possibility and opened his eyes. Suddenly, his eyes were very bright, making people feel that they were suddenly bright. Heaven and earth are the furnace, and nature is the work. Yin and yang are the coal, and all things are the copper. If I want to break through and carry the Tao with my body, how can I leave heaven and earth? His thoughts were connected, and his face could not help but reveal a smile after enlightenment. He said self-deprecatingly, "Maybe I can go back to the furnace and be rebuilt." Buzz buzz buzz. Chu Yang suddenly stood up in the void and swept through the first, second, third, and fourth levels of the initial chi. Then, he went straight to the fifth, sixth, and seventh levels. His speed gradually slowed down, but it was still very fast. In just a short time, he entered the 8th level, and then directly set foot on the 9th level. During this process, he was relaxed and did not feel the slightest pressure. For the initial sun and others, the 9th level was very difficult to reach, but for him, it was just a matter of raising his hand. Such a move made the initial sun and others dumbfounded. People were even more shocked. Oh my God, Chu Wudi, is he still human? The 9th level is so easy, almost in a thought. How can this be endured by the group of heaven's prides? He doesn't have a divine lattice yet, but he did it. I'm not hallucinating, right? How is this possible? Since the opening of the starting ground, no one has been able to break through the 7th level. This time, the initial sun and Xiaoqiu broke through to the 8th level. This news will shake the world, but Chu Wudi set foot on the 9th level so easily. Whoosh! Xiaoqiu and the Blessed Child couldn't help but look at Chu Yang in disbelief. Their pupils shook incessantly, revealing their current feelings without a doubt. At this moment, no one present could calm down. The 9th level, that was the 9th level of the initial Qi, represented the 9th level of the 9th celestial palace. If Chu Yang had reached the 9th level with great difficulty, they would have let it go, but he was so leisurely. Is it because of the turbid matter? While Xiao Qiuyu was guessing the reason, he immediately heard sounds of intense shock and discussion. The primordial Qi is gone, the primordial Qi is gone, all of it has been swallowed by Chu Wudi. Are you kidding? No matter how capable Chu Wudi is, he simply cannot devour that much primordial aura. Even if he could devour all the primordial aura, he would definitely explode by now. How difficult is it to refine the primordial Qi? If you're not a genius, you won't be able to do it. No matter how capable Chu Wudi is, how could he do it? Don't forget about the turbid matter. Didn't Chu Wudi collect all the turbid matter by himself? Then why can't he do the same for the initial Qi? Amidst the uproar, Chu Yang was still close to the eruption of the initial aura. Looking up, he asked, "Where does the initial aura come from? Can we enter it?" 1. Hearing this, everyone felt like their brains were about to explode. What did they just hear? Chu Wudi actually wanted to fall into the initial flames trap? It should be possible, right? Everyone had yet to come back to their senses, and they were still staring blankly at Chu Yang. Then, Chu Yang's figure leapt, and he went straight into the initial volcano, and disappeared from their sight. Chapter 1762. The crater of the initial volcano was very huge. It was not much different from a real fire. However, there was no billowing smoke, nor was there red magma. Inside there were clouds and mist. That should be the initial Qi, but it also didn't seem to be the initial Qi. People couldn't be sure. The initial Qi should be transparent now. There shouldn't be any impurities. How could it be like clouds and mist? After all, the initial Qi on the 9th floor was already clear and bright. No one could see through that layer of mist. Therefore, no one knew what was going on inside the initial volcano. There were many people on the scene, but no one made a sound. Everyone was scared speechless by Chu Yang's action without any warning. What kind of person, what kind of brain structure, would dare to recklessly barge into the initial volcano like this? Was he not afraid of an accident happening inside and completely dying? Since the opening of the initial ground, there had been countless fights for the initial Qi. However, nothing like this had ever happened. No one had ever thought about the initial volcano, and no one dared to enter the initial volcano. Chu Yang was the first, and also the only one. Perhaps he was the forerunner. There would be many people trying to enter the initial volcano later. Everyone's shocked mind gradually calmed down. Someone said, "Maybe this is not worth making a fuss about." The reason why no one entered the initial volcano was not because they didn't dare, but because they didn't have the ability. After all, they couldn't even reach the 8th floor. How could they talk about anything else? However, Chu Wudi did it, so why can't he enter? Many people nodded their heads in agreement with this reason. At the same time, they analyzed the purpose of Chu Yang's action. Come to think of it, Chu Wudi felt that the initial Qi was not enough. Therefore, he wanted to barge into the initial volcano in hopes of obtaining more initial Qi. Generally speaking, the initial volcano would only erupt once. After a while, it would continue to erupt again. It was very regular. In people's opinion, Chu Yang must also know about this. Maybe he wants an even bigger fortune. Only the source of the initial Qi will have it. No matter what, this Chu Wudi is scary enough. In the past, no one had ever said that the initial Qi was not enough. It all depended on who could refine how much. However, to him, countless geniuses, monsters, and many others could not refine the initial Qi, yet he was able to refine it all. I'm afraid such a character only appears once in a million years. It's not wrong to say that he's invincible. If he's not invincible, who else can be invincible? Chuwudi is different from everyone else. No matter who that person is, it's the same. He's unique and the most supreme. No one can compare to him. No matter what kind of genius you are, no matter what kind of rare genius you are, it's all the same. Many people could only exclaim in amazement. They could only exclaim in amazement. At this time, the starting child was also incomparably throbbing. Although he didn't want to admit it, he seemed to have no choice but to admit that he was indeed inferior to Chuwudi. He had already admitted defeat before he even fought with Chuwudi. For a person like him, nothing could make him feel worse than this. Mediocre, looks like I'm really mediocre. Recalling Xiao Chuyu's words to him, the bitterness in the starting child's heart was even more intense. Endless frustration flooded his heart, making his mood extremely depressed. At this moment, Xiao Chuyu's heart was also filled with mixed feelings. There are many possibilities in the sword, and there are many possibilities in life. Just like you, who was caught off guard and made your life impossible for anyone to guess? What do you think is at the end of the initial volcano? Is it a great danger or a great fortune? Chapter 1763. If it's a great danger, I reckon Chuwudi's corpse won't even be left. No one knows if he's dead or alive. If it's an opportunity, then that opportunity is something even the absolute beginning dominator never obtained. It's truly enviable. Who can imagine the origin of the initial volcano? It can erupt with initial chi, so no matter how extraordinary it is, it's definitely world-shaking. Even a dominator would yearn to enter. There's no doubt that the absolute beginning dominator might immediately appear when he senses this. Before this person's voice fell, a loud rumbling sound rang out. The initial flame suddenly shook violently, and then a stream of chi gushed out. It was like a river of stars, producing 10,000 creatures that hid the sky and covered the earth as they surged downwards. Azure dragon, black tortoise, vermilion bird, white tiger, and so on. Tens of thousands of creatures appeared, covering the sky and covering the earth. At this moment, the crater of the initial volcano was like the spillway of a dam. Tens of thousands of creatures poured down like a flood. It also seemed like someone had created tens of thousands of creatures and released them into heaven and earth. The divine elephant faced the sky and roared. The lion's mane was like a waterfall, incomparably powerful, its roar splitting the void. There were unknown giant birds like dark clouds, tautais, purings. Their figures were densely packed, and they were all boundlessly large. They covered heaven and earth, and even seemed to cover the boundless starry sky. It was as if stars were falling one after another in that instant. To the people, it was as if they were facing the end of the world. They couldn't help but be alarmed. Fortunately, none of this was left behind. However, it was already enough to shock the people. Something's not right. Look at that tautai, it seems like half of its body has been destroyed. Someone with incomparably keen observation spoke out, and soon after, people discovered more and more. That's the 9-headed lion. Its other 8 heads seem to have been blown apart. The white tiger seems to have been torn apart. The divine elephant doesn't have its trunk. There seemed to be damage among the 10,000 creatures. It made people astonished, and discussions were even more fervent. One chi 10,000 creatures, why are all of them damaged? Of course there are damaged. One chi 10,000 creatures, who can do that? It would be abnormal if there weren't any damaged ones. This is indeed astonishing. Such a scene has never happened before. In the midst of the discussion, someone suddenly said loudly, "Do you guys think it's possible that these manifested creatures were all crippled by Chuwudi?" Many people were shaken. They couldn't help but nod in agreement with this point of view. There is such a possibility. The initial aura can evolve into a myriad of creatures. Chuwudi must have suffered an incomparably terrifying attack when he wanted to barge into the source of the initial aura. Perhaps he has already been torn to pieces, or even beaten into dust. One chi 10,000 spirits is incomparably powerful. Who can block such an attack? Even Chu Wuti wouldn't be able to do that, right? Om ma pad hum. Just when everyone was guessing whether or not Chu Yang had suffered a boundlessly terrifying attack, a grand Tao sound rang out. At first, it seemed to be Buddhist mantras, but upon further inspection, it wasn't. It seemed to be the language of gods, but also the voice of the great Tao. Listening to it, it was as if it wanted people to realize their true nature. It was as if someone was asking their hearts and their Tao. At the same time, it was as if someone was explaining the great Tao. This voice seemed to be able to suppress everything, so much so that it made people feel as if something was happening between heaven and earth at this moment. Rumble. The initial flame was fooled, and then it began to spit out a yellow turbid substance. It was as if Chu Wuti had plunged into the water and turned over the yellow mud at the bottom of the water. Rumble. Chapter 1764. Just as everyone thought, Chu Yang had indeed encountered a big trouble. When he entered the origin volcano, nothing happened at first. It was like knocking on someone's door, but no one answered. Afterwards, he became like a thief. Taking advantage of the fact that the owner was not at home, he took the opportunity to sneak in. However, he was immediately discovered and fell into a dangerous situation. First was the primordial energy, which transformed into thousands of living beings that surged over to kill Chu Yang. However, Chu Yang used the heaven clone of God's world as a substitute, and with a backhand strike, he occupied the upper position and blasted all the living beings out of the primordial volcano. The rumbling sound was caused by Chu Yang's divine soul falling into some kind of illusion. He was almost lost in it. Fortunately, his divine martial spirit was awakened by the Destiny twins. After that, the origin chi turned into an endless power of lightning, making him feel as if he had barged into an abyss of lightning. Fortunately, he had grasped the general principles of lightning and had a profound understanding of lightning, so he was able to stay safe and sound. Encountering a calamity, he almost died every time. Chu Yang should have given up. However, on the other side, there seemed to be someone calling out to him. That kind of summoning became more and more intense the further he went. This made him extremely puzzled. Chu Yang didn't know any supreme figure. Moreover, his interactions with the various divine worlds were also very few. So, it was reasonable to say that there shouldn't be any reason for this. Therefore, he guessed that it should be because of his Destiny twins' martial spirits. If it was related to the Destiny twins, as long as there was even the slightest possibility, how could he let it go? Therefore, he took the risk and continued forward. The further he went, the narrower and darker the passage became. What is in front of me? What is the origin of the origin chi? Chu Yang began to feel somewhat apprehensive. Everything in front of him was unknown. If he was not careful, he might die. So much so that he might not even know how he died. The so-called origin volcano should be a passage, a space-time passage. Maybe the other side is another world that is not in the God's world. Chu Yang felt that such a possibility could be established. After all, not every place could give birth to a divine item like the origin chi. Maybe the place in front is only a danger zone that will destroy everything. It is also possible that the place in front is a land of fortune with endless great fortune. Chu Yang hesitated as he moved forward bit by bit. He was extremely cautious, always using his doppelganger to scout ahead. This continued for an unknown period of time, but there were no more attacks coming from the front. Everything became very calm. It was so calm that it made him uneasy and even scared. Usually, before a storm came, there would always be a final moment of peace. However, he did not know if this was the final moment of peace. All of a sudden, his mind exploded. He was like a mouse that had encountered a cat, and extreme fear could not help but arise in his heart. It was even to the extent that he was terrified to the point that his limbs were almost unable to move. It was as if he was already in the grasp of the god of death. Just as he was about to frantically retreat and escape, he suddenly realized that the hair-raising aura was not coming from the front of the tunnel, but from the bottom of the tunnel. What's going on? This was even stranger. Chu Yang felt like his scalp was about to explode. There was no such terrifying character in the starting ground. He could do whatever he wanted in the starting ground. No, there's one. Grand Primordium Ruler. When he suddenly thought of this, Chu Yang's heart almost jumped out of his chest. The absolute beginning ruler controlled the starting ground. He was the true ruler of the starting ground. He had rashly entered the origin volcano to seize the fortune within. Perhaps he was simply trying to seize the absolute beginning ruler's treasure. How could he be allowed to do so? However, he was not sure. I don't care anymore. Chu Yang had completely thrown caution to the wind. He crazily rushed forward. But a powerful force suddenly pushed him from below and blasted him out of the passage. In the next moment, he felt as if he had entered another world and arrived at the source of the origin chi. What kind of place is this? If the absolute beginning ruler chases after me, do I have a chance to escape? Chapter 1765. Chu Yang's guess was indeed correct. The grand primordium rulers had indeed descended upon the starting ground. As the master of the starting ground, the grand primordium ruler didn't know much about the origin of the starting aura. The only thing he was certain of was that it was a place of supreme terror. He didn't dare to provoke it at all. The reason why he descended was because of fear. He was worried that a bug like Chu Wudi would anger the supreme terror there and vent all its anger on him. At that time, he would be consigned to eternal damnation. However, he had discovered it a little too late. Although he was a ruler, he wouldn't pay attention to the starting ground all the time. In addition, the starting ground had fought for the starting aura countless times, but no one had ever had the ability to enter the starting volcano. Who knew that such a shocking mission would appear this time and such a situation would occur? At this moment, everyone couldn't move. Space and time were frozen. Everyone was frozen in place like dead object. They couldn't move at all. Even their thoughts couldn't move. However, the strange thing was that every one of them could sense the grand primordium ruler's anxiety and even fear. The grand primordium ruler had lost his composure. It was unimaginable. That was a ruler. The most unbelievable thing was that the grand primordium ruler actually revealed the true emotions in his heart in front of everyone. From this, one could imagine how terrified he was. After that, everyone heard that the grand primordium ruler seemed to be apologizing to someone, and they were scared out of their wits. Fortunately, they soon couldn't feel anything else because the grand primordium ruler had blocked their sight and hearing. When the grand primordium ruler left, everyone heaved a long sigh of relief. Although they were incomparably shocked, they didn't dare to discuss it at all. When it came to a ruler, the slightest wrong or disrespectful would probably lead to a fatal disaster. If Chu Yang was sure of this, he would probably be scared half to death. Unfortunately, he was only guessing. At this moment, he didn't notice that the grand primordium ruler was chasing after him. He calmed down and looked around. The space he was in felt a little like the bottom of the sea. If the starting aura was oil, then he was in the plate that contained oil at the bottom of the sea. Chu Yang raised his head and looked up. All he could see was the boundless origin chi. After his gaze pierced through the origin chi, there was a layer of something above that completely blocked and isolated his line of sight. The summoning was coming from above. What is summoning me? He really couldn't understand. He wanted to rush forward, but he didn't dare. The initial chi was too terrifying. If it wasn't for the fact that he had absorbed enough turbid matter before, he would have been crushed into pieces by now. He did not need to worry about the turbid matter because the turbid matter was under his feet. At this moment, he was at the boundary where the turbid matter and the initial aura separated. The turbid substance and the initial gas were like two incompatible liquid. However, the strange thing was that they could perfectly fuse together in the body of a living being. This made Chu Yang feel very mysterious. Apart from these two, there was nothing else. There were no living beings, no matter, and no sound. What the hell is this place? Chu Yang sized up the surroundings a little and was astonished. Passage? In this short period of time, the passage formed by the initial volcano had already closed up in an instant. There wasn't a single gap, and the turbid matter began to cover it. Shit! Chu Yang rushed over like a madman and absorbed the turbid matter there, hoping to open the passage. However, he seemed to have touched the bottom of a porcelain bottle. Yes, a porcelain bottle. Chapter 1766. This. Chu Yang was a little confused, and his thoughts were a little chaotic. If this was a porcelain bottle that contained the turbid substance and the initial qi, then logically speaking, it was absolutely impossible for the turbid substance and the initial qi to leak out. Moreover, even if the porcelain bottle was drilled, the turbid substance would cover the upper layer, and only the turbid substance would leak out, not the initial qi. Unless the turbid substance leaked out completely, then it would be the initial qi's turn. However, there was still a lot of turbid substance. Compared to the turbid substance here, it could be said that one was a drop of water, and the other was an ocean. My deduction should be wrong. This shouldn't be a porcelain bottle, and I can't be in a porcelain bottle. How can there be such an amazing porcelain bottle in the world? It was completely against common sense and somewhat strange. Chu Yang was very worried. The most fatal thing was that the passage was sealed, and his way back was cut off. There's always a way out. Can a living person suffocate to death? After that, he calmed down and said to himself in his heart, I should be able to find out something after some exploration. Now let's cultivate first. No matter where it was, strength was the most important. Wasn't the reason why Chu Yang had fallen to such a state in order to achieve his cultivation goals? Carrying the Tao with the fleshly body, I hope I can succeed. Buzz. Chu Yang directly used his Tai Chi technique. Immediately, a Tai Chi divine diagram was formed outside his body and wrapped him in it. From his pores, blood and qi surged out and merged with the Tai Chi divine diagram, making it look like a blood-red disc. Clear as yang, initial qi, come. With a pull, the rolling initial qi was attracted and surged over. At the same time, he pulled again. Turbid as een, turbid substance, come. It was said that the sky was formed by the rising of the clear qi, and the earth was formed by the sinking of the turbid qi. Chu Yang's idea was very simple. With Tai Chi as the foundation, it would become the furnace of heaven and earth, and he would reforge inside it. The initial qi and the turbid substance could be used to create the furnace of heaven and earth. Wouldn't that be the best material to create the furnace of heaven and earth? It could be said that if the two were used to form the furnace of heaven and earth, it would be like simulating the process of the formation of heaven and earth. The Taiji divine diagram spun. Under its guidance, the primordial qi and turbid matter were constantly drawn over, gathering within it. They began to entangle with each other like yin and yang. Because Chu Yang's blood and qi was contained within, the two quickly fused together. Buzz buzz buzz. As the buzzing sound grew louder and louder, the spinning Taiji divine diagram gradually cut off that part of the void and formed the shape of a universal furnace. Under the effect of Chu Yang's blood qi, the starting ground and the turbidity continuously fused together, forming a mass of chaos that was endlessly misty. In that mass of chaos, space was opening up, as if a miniature world was being born. This caused the furnace of heaven and earth outside to become clearer and clearer, more and more real, until it finally became corporeal. Bang bang bang! Just as the furnace of heaven and earth was about to form, Chu Yang suddenly felt as if he had been struck by lightning. His entire body shook violently, and his chest exploded. Sounds of explosions rang out continuously throughout his body, and his sternum was blown apart in an instant. A huge bloody hole appeared, and many cracks appeared. It was as if a great earthquake had just occurred, and huge cracks tore the earth apart. With just this one blow, he was almost blown to pieces. Fortunately, his physical body was strong, and this was the result. No, it shouldn't be like this. In Chu Yang's imagination, when heaven and earth were just formed, he was the only living being in heaven and earth, and could grow together with heaven and earth. However, there was a great deviation from the very beginning. Chapter 1767. At this moment, within the furnace of heaven and earth, it was not the beginning of the world, but the later stages of the great calamity. This was because he had yet to be wiped out. There was a reason for the operation of the world. How could Chu Yang be as noble as the world? The great Tao of heaven and earth did not allow it. However, just because the heavens did not allow it, did it not allow it? Since ancient times, how many people had defied the heavens and changed? And when a martial artist cultivated to the end, how could they not be equal to the heavens? I don't believe in this evil, Taiji. Chu Yang was ruthless. He used the Taiji of the limitless technique that he had created himself to draw the turbid matter and the primordial energy over. He fused them into the bloody hole in his chest and healed the terrifying injury there. In an instant, his chest was also in a state of chaos and he was in a daze. First, the torn wound healed. Then, the broken bones connected and so on. However, before he could fully recover, the great Tao's rules descended again. The terrifying power of destruction completely wiped out all his efforts. His chest exploded and healed. The two rules were like yin and yang. It was like a battle between life and death. The cycle of reincarnation repeated, and he fell into extreme anxiety. Chu Yang's condition became worse and worse. There was even one time when his entire body was about to explode into two. The terrifying explosive power wantonly tore his body apart. Cracks crisscrossed, and he was almost torn apart like a piece of paper. Ah ah ah! He screamed again and again as if he was in an endless hell. The turbid matter and the primordial energy could open up the world. Naturally, they had powerful healing abilities. Chu Yang relied on this bit of the great Tao of heaven and earth to resist. He hoped to survive the great calamity in the furnace of heaven and earth, and then recover together with the furnace of heaven and earth to complete the goal of the physical body carrying the Tao. He thought very well, but it was too difficult to bear. This was not the most important thing. If his deduction was not correct, the consequences would be unimaginable. It could be said that this was a gamble. If the gamble was right, the physical body carrying the Tao and the physical body was invincible. If it was wrong, then the physical body and the Tao would perish without any suspense. Fighting for one's life with the heavens was always a fine line. But for those who wanted to step into the supreme realm, no one could avoid such a gamble. Bang bang bang! More and more laws descended from the great Tao of heaven and earth, and the power of annihilation became more and more terrifying. Although Chu Yang was able to protect his chest, he was unable to protect other places. His 4 limbs were blown away, his spine was broken, and his shoulder blades were blown away. Even his head was blown up with bloody holes, and his skull was flying everywhere. At that moment, he almost thought that he was dead, because he seemed to be able to see his own brain juice. Taiji. His head, his 4 limbs, his back, and many other vital points appeared with the Tai Chi divine diagram, fusing with the turbid matter and the Chi of origin to heal his injuries. However, there were some places that were overlooked, and his skin and flesh were torn open from the explosion, making him unrecognizable. In a short period of time, Chu Yang's body was constantly being repaired. It was as if day and night were alternating. Chu Yang's body was constantly being broken and reconnected. A long time later, Chu Yang was exhausted to the extreme. He lay on his back on the turbid substance. The destructive force that he was hoping for receded, but it never came. Instead, it became even more violent. In the end, he could not bear such suffering and cursed repeatedly, "Forget it, use the martial spirit." What's the point of perceiving the process? The first form of the destiny twin martial spirit, genius and fool. The genius could carry out deduction, while the fool could operate on its own. These abilities would still exist after the martial spirit's form changed. Chu Yang had not used the destiny twin martial spirit for a long time, because he realized that he was relying too much on the martial spirit, and wanted to change it. Most importantly, he wanted to perceive the process of the physical body carrying the Tao. That would be of great benefit to him. But now, he had no choice but to give up. Brothers, long time no see. Chapter 1768. Chu Yang was too tired to care about anything else. He didn't know how long he would sleep this time and whether he could return to the heavenly spirit world in time. Rushing back to the heavenly spirit world was one of the reasons why he persisted until now. He didn't want to break his promise with Chen Burang. Most importantly, he didn't want Parrot, Shangguanlan, and the others to worry. He had disappeared for so long and even agreed to fight with Chen Burang. But in the end, he didn't appear. They would probably think that he was in big trouble or had died. After all, the things he did were often out of line. Even when he was about to fall asleep, Chu Yang still couldn't forget about this. In this strange and somewhat strange environment, he fell into a deep sleep, no longer aware of the affairs of the world. At the intersection of turbid matter and primordial gas, silence was the eternal theme here. Now, from time to time, there were explosions. Gradually, the sound of explosions began to calm down, and then it fell into an endless silence. After an unknown period of time, darkness began to appear in the furnace of heaven and earth. It seemed that after the great apocalypse, all living things were wiped out, and the sun and moon no longer existed. It fell into extreme darkness and began to accumulate new strength in the darkness. Light, a trace of light, appeared at an unknown time, bursting out from the misty chaos. In the furnace of heaven and earth, the light became more and more dazzling. The chaos seemed to be cut open by the light, and the earth and sky appeared. Water, grass, wind, thunder, and other things appeared one by one in the furnace of heaven and earth. But they all disappeared in a flash, not real, but just strange phenomena. With a buzzing sound, Chu Yang, who was in a deep sleep, floated up from the universal furnace. His body issued a buzzing sound. His entire body was sparkling and translucent, and emitted an endless radiance. He was completely naked, and his clothes were nowhere to be seen. Perhaps he had thoroughly exploded once. His body and the void trembled violently together with the furnace of cosmos. Without a sound, the light of order burst out from his body, like a meridian and blood vessel, intertwining with each other and then rushing out of his body and into the void. An incomparably powerful aura also erupted from his body at this moment, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. It made the furnace of heaven and earth swell fiercely, as if it was about to explode. At the same time, more and more light of order and symbols of order leaped out from his body. The lines of light were like knitting a sweater, and they were arranged, intertwined, and fused in an orderly manner. The aura that erupted from his body was even more powerful. It escaped from the furnace of cosmos and stirred up the turbid matter and the primordial chi outside. These rays of light were the lines of law. They were not imprinted on Chu Yang's body, but were formed from Chu Yang's body. It was like when the world was created, mountains, rivers, lakes, oceans, suns, moons, and stars that didn't originally exist were formed one by one. If he succeeded, the physical body would not only be a carrier for the soul, it would also be a carrier for the laws and the great Tao. It was like a divine spark, and the physical body would be invincible. No one could compare to it. Just the physical body alone would be able to crush his opponents with divine might. After the laws generated by his physical body were completely derived, they entered the void under the guidance of the Destiny Twins, and came in contact with the laws of heaven and earth. Endless mysterious power surged out, and divine chains of order appeared in the void, connecting with the lines of laws extended from his physical body. This was like a small world connecting with a large world. The small world used the large world as a mirror to correct itself. Rumble. Chapter 1769. The turbid matter and the primordial chi were crazily sucked into his body. Using his body as a medium, it was like the combination of yin and yang into Tai Chi. Various Tai Chi divine diagrams appeared in his flesh and blood. While protecting his flesh and blood, they also healed his injuries. In the end, Chu Yang's spirit also gave birth to rules of order, which connected with the heavens and earth. The Destiny Twins' martial spirits were extremely comprehensive. His spirit was not left out. 1. After an unknown amount of time, the lines of law disappeared. Everything was over. The Destiny Twins' martial spirits stopped moving. Chu Yang woke up. When he opened his eyes, a buzzing sound could be heard in the void. At this moment, in his eyes, the lines of law could be seen interweaving. When he looked through them, it was as if they were lines of law. I didn't die. That should be a success. The first thought that came to Chu Yang's mind after waking up was to sense his body. When his thoughts entered his body, they came into contact with a line of light. When his thoughts landed on it, it was as if his hands had landed on the strings of a zither. Tao sounds could be heard. His body was like a big bell being rung. Ripples appeared in the void and spread far away. These are the lines of law. He was overjoyed. It seems like I succeeded. Searching for the lines of law in his flesh and blood, his thoughts continued to move forward. In an instant, he was like a fish entering the ocean from a river. Those lines of law were densely packed and seemed endless. Where could he find all of them? Then, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. There are so many of them in my body. Before the joyful thought could be released, it turned into horror in the blink of an eye. There were too many lines of law in his body. Moreover, the combination and arrangement of the lines of law were not the least bit messy. Instead, they were extremely orderly, showing great wonders and profound mysteries. It was difficult to understand in a short time. It was as if he was reading a heavenly book. Finally, he found that the lines of law in his flesh and blood seemed to be weaving a human figure of himself. It was as if nothing could be more perfect. A human godhead. Originally, in order to temper his half-step godforce, Chu Yang could form a virtual godhead that could take the form of birds, beasts, suns, moons, and stars. Of course, his godhead could also take the form of a human. The body was the carrier, and the body was the godhead. Then, the godhead was humanoid. His train of thought became smoother and smoother, and he couldn't help but smile. I've finally succeeded. To him, this was not an easy task. But if others knew that he had such thoughts, they would definitely curse him to the skies. What was so difficult about this? It was simply too easy. This was similar to how the Ice Kuan was shocked that Chu Yang could change the form of the godhead at will. It was too shocking. When news of this spread to the various deities' world, the deities were all shocked. Perhaps even the rulers would come to investigate and see what was going on. I wonder how much time has passed? How am I supposed to get out of this damned place? There was no day or night here, so it was impossible to know how much time had passed. The place he was in was probably not a good place. The problems he had to face were somewhat thorny. Sharpening the axe won't delay the work of cutting firewood. We can only talk about this later. Chapter 1770. He realized that he could no longer move the ninth transformation. He could still figure out the reason behind this. His physical strength was too strong, so he couldn't move the ninth transformation. If a ninth revolution cultivator was a giant, he would be able to move a huge rock, but he would definitely not be able to move a star. His current strength was definitely not that. His previous strength of 250,000 dragons should be much higher than before. According to his previous strength and the fact that he had already become a god, it wouldn't be difficult for him to blow up a middle god with his physical body alone. Killing a level 4 or 5 high god wouldn't be a problem either. Another significant change was his 11 grotto heavens. The first 2 grotto heavens had transformed into divine personas. Together with his physical body's divine persona, it seemed to represent 1 begets 2, 2 begets 3, and 3 begets all things. It was very compatible with the boundless Tao. What surprised him the most was that the divine spirit formed by his 7 spirits had intertwined lines of laws and had also become a divine persona. If the physical body can be used as a carrier, why can't the spirit be used as a carrier? In this way, my spiritual power is also far superior to others. The transformation was too shocking. Chu Yang's face was brimming with a brilliant smile. He had been tormenting himself in the starting ground for so long and racked his brains. All his efforts had finally paid off. I can be said to be invincible now. Let's see if I can break through the bottom of the bottle and open up a passage to return to the starting ground. It was time to test it out and solve the problem. Chu Yang directly pried open the turbid substance. The moment he came into contact with it, he realized that it couldn't be corroded by him at all. The bottom of the bottle was revealed. His body was sparkling like a crystal, shining with neon colors. His fist was also sparkling like a colored diamond, like a multicolored divine persona. He erupted with all his strength and smashed down. He was like a 9-colored sun, his boundless radiance even more dazzling. Bang, bang, bang. However, the result left him dumbfounded. In other places, such as the starting ground, his explosive aura would cause the void to tremble. These few punches would definitely cause the heavens to collapse and the earth to rend. However, when it landed on the ground, it was just like a stone thrown on a mountain. Chu Yang felt as though he was shaking a mountain. He could not only shake an ordinary mountain, he could even destroy it. However, this mountain turned him into an ordinary person. How could an ordinary person shake a mountain? It was simply wishful thinking. So this is the result of becoming a god through the physical body? Chu Yang was speechless for a long time. He furrowed his brows and his heart was heavy. Such a place really made him feel depressed. And if he couldn't return to the starting ground, if he had to find another way to leave, he didn't know when he would be able to return to the heavenly soul world. Is there no other way but to charge up? Chu Yang opened up his mind and body completely, and used all his strength to feel that strange call for him. Instantly, that call gradually became stronger. He sucked in enough turbid matter to counter the initial gas. After that, following that kind of call, he began to rush up fiercely, directly penetrating the layer of the initial gas. Suddenly, he felt as if he had entered a liquid of another density. The change in pressure was incomparably obvious. He lost the restraint of gravity and felt as if he was about to fly. Rumble! At this moment, something seemed to be thrown down from above. It was so huge that it covered the sky. However, when it fell, it rapidly shrank, like a golden arrow shooting straight down. Chu Yang hastily dodged. But that thing flew past him at a high speed, and a mighty pressure fell down on him. He didn't have the slightest ability to resist it. His bones burst into pieces, and he directly knelt down. His tough body even exploded with bang sounds. His limbs were separated from his body, and a bloody hole appeared in his chest. He was almost dismembered. Fortunately, that thing's speed was extremely fast. He missed it in the blink of an eye, and the crisis was immediately resolved. When he saw what it was, his pupils abruptly shrank. A sovereign realm dragon. A dragon that couldn't be any more dead, a dragon at the sovereign level. Buzz. Chu Yang's mind exploded. The sky and earth were turned upside down. His brain had already exploded, and brain juice mixed with blood splashed out. His scalp was numb, and he was terrified to the extreme. In his heart, he had a conjecture. Why would they throw a sovereign realm dragon here? Could it be that they want to decompose the immortal matter here? Chapter 1771. The starting ground ended prematurely. Bing Kuan's heart was in a mess, and he didn't stop for a moment. He reckoned that his master must have done something big again. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to be like this. Perhaps only his master had such ability. Kuan Peng's ancestors, you must protect him. Bing Kuan was about to pray. If Chu Yang died, he would also die. Especially when he found that almost no one from the starting ground was talking about it, his mood became even more uneasy. Xing. Deity, did something happen to little Xing Deity? In Bing Kuan's grotto heaven, Zhu Beiji's lips trembled as he transmitted his voice. As a pig who loved life and had infinite care for life, he was also frightened. At this moment, he was also full of fear. He even cursed little Xing Deity more than 10,000 times. Can't you live a good life without tossing around? If a pig is always like this, the pork will definitely not taste good. If only I knew. Bing Kuan also wanted to curse. Following a master like Chu Yang, he was afraid that his life would be short. He waited for a while. When the starting ground was completely closed, his heart immediately thumped. Oh no, even if Master wasn't caught, I'm afraid he can't come out this time. Master, what exactly did you do that would incur the wrath of man and God? Bing Kuan really couldn't figure it out. He was anxious to understand the situation, so he could only stare at a person who had just come out of the starting ground. When he arrived at a safe place, he suddenly appeared out of thin air before this person had time to exclaim. This person was so scared that he directly fell to the ground. What happened in the starting ground? Why did it end prematurely and close prematurely? Xing Deity. This person was so scared that he couldn't speak, trembling non-stop. Answer me. Bing Kuan was anxious and impatient. His tone instantly became incomparably fierce. Xing. Xing Deity. He stammered. Once the Ice Kuan heard the three words, Chu Wudi, it was incomparably certain that this was his master Chu Yang. Everything could be said to be within its expectations. It was indeed so. What did Chu Wudi do? Holy God, it's not convenient to say it here. The man pointed to the sky, causing the Ice Kuan's mind to explode. His master had gone to provoke the sovereign again. In an instant, the Ice Kuan felt a headache coming on. He had seen how extraordinary the ruler was, but his master still wasn't paying attention and insisted on playing around? Whoosh! Bing Kuan immediately used a spatial technique to bring this person out of Origin City. Only then did he speak again. You can speak now. If you dare to lie, you can imagine the consequences. Sacred God, even if you give me, Wang Yunfeng, 100 guts, I would never dare to lie in front of you. The person who called himself Wang Yunfeng continued. Moreover, what happened in the starting ground is definitely not a top secret. It will spread very quickly, so why should I hide it? Even if the sacred God doesn't ask, he will soon find out. Cut the crap. The Ice Kuan knew that the other party's explanation was reasonable, but it did not have the patience to listen. It's the Xing god. Wang Yunfeng went straight to the point. Chu Wuti felt that there wasn't enough Genesis aura, so he went straight into the Genesis volcano. He wanted to go to the source of the Genesis aura and alert the Absolute Beginning Dominator. The Absolute Beginning Dominator's consciousness would descend. What? The Ice Koan's mind buzzed when he heard this. His mind went blank as he stared at Wang Yunfeng in disbelief. After that, he recovered and said incomparably coldly, "Are you joking with me? The Genesis aura has a total of 9 layers, and no one has ever been able to break through to the 8th layer. How could anyone enter the Genesis volcano?" The Ice Koan naturally understood the starting ground. Chapter 1772. He wouldn't believe a single thing? Bing Koan was speechless about the sour feeling in his heart. It was one thing for his master to cause trouble, but it wasn't just one thing. It seemed to be a series of things. In the end, he was completely dumbfounded when he heard Wang Yunfeng's detailed explanation. Chu Yang actually absorbed the turbid matter. Chu Yang sucked in almost all the turbid matter and the primordial qi. Chu Yang actually wanted to use his body to carry the Tao. What made the Ice Koan panic was that the Grand Primordium ruler lost his composure and revealed a terrified expression when Chu Yang entered the primordial volcano and headed to the source of the primordial qi. He even repeatedly apologized to someone. What kind of existence could make the Grand Primordium ruler, a ruler, fear and beg for mercy? Woo woo woo, this time it's completely over. When Bing Koan heard this, his entire body almost went limp. His master was indeed a professional at courting death. Not only did he provoke a dominator, he even provoked an existence that was even more terrifying than a dominator. He even dared to provoke an existence that everyone feared. You're a heaven's pride and should go to heaven, but heaven shouldn't be like this. The Ice Koan let Wang Yunfeng go and soon heard all kinds of rumors. This Chu Wuti is really too unimaginable. He almost turned all the heaven's primordial ground into white stripes in the wave. No one is his opponent. There are no words to describe this Chu Wuti. Everyone is afraid of the turbid matter, but he discovered the mystery within it and relied on it to absorb the primordial qi. Just this amazing insight alone is enough to crush countless heaven's primordial qi. The most ridiculous thing is that he actually broke into the primordial volcano and wanted to go to the source of the primordium ground. He scared the Grand Primordium ruler half to death. Chu Wuti is really unprecedented. If he doesn't die, who can compete with him? Due to the spread of the news, everyone was astonished. In a short period of time, the name Chu Wuti was known to almost everyone in the region, with Origin City as the center. There was not a single person who did not know of him. All kinds of rumors were similar to what the Ice Koan knew from Wang Yunfeng. He basically concluded that this was the truth. However, there was nothing he could do. Ice Koan was cautious. He was afraid that the Absolute Beginning ruler would investigate Chu Yang's background and find him, so he left immediately. He left a message for Chu Yang at the agreed place. "I'll be waiting for you at home." His home was the Beast Abyss, and the specific location was the space-time tunnel from the Beast Abyss to the Heavenly Spirit World. This was the plan that the Ice Koan and Chu Yang had come up with. Who would have thought that it would actually be used? As for Chu Yang's life and death, the Ice Koan could only resign itself to fate. Even if he was here, there was nothing he could do. The enemy Chu Yang had provoked was too terrifying. At this moment, Chu Yang finally knew how the primordial volcano was formed. The golden dragon, which was several times the size of a sovereign, fell straight down and pierced through the bottom of what he thought was a porcelain bottle. It formed a space-time tunnel and brought the turbid matter and the primordial gas out. However, the aura coming from the other end of the space-time tunnel was not the aura of the starting ground. Every dimensional world had its own aura, and the starting ground was naturally the same. According to this situation, every space-time passage did not lead to the starting ground. This was scary. In the starting ground, the primordial volcano would erupt at about the same time every year, forming a pattern. However, at this end, it happened randomly. This meant that every year there would be a golden dragon similar to this one that fell into this porcelain bottle. Moreover, it wasn't just one, two, or a few. There should be a lot of them. Otherwise, without a certain number, the probability of such a random thing happening would be very high. How could it form a pattern? Only a certain degree of concentration could achieve this. Chapter 1773. Fear made him want to dive down and escape through the space-time tunnel. However, he could only forcefully suppress this impulse. That sovereign-level true dragon had passed by him in the blink of an eye, and he was about to be torn apart. If he had approached, he would have exploded. He could only watch helplessly as the tunnel closed. He was helpless to the extreme. The so-called body of a god is nothing more than this. Compared to this, he was too insignificant. In an instant, Chu Yang didn't feel any joy at his achievements. He even felt a little sad. He didn't need to worry about his injuries. Not to mention the turbid matter and the primordial energy, the mysterious substance of the third level had instantly healed his injuries as soon as it entered his body. It was extremely shocking. He had absorbed enough turbid matter and primordial qi. At this moment, he was absorbing this indescribable substance endlessly without any misgivings. There was simply too much of this substance. No matter how much he absorbed, there probably wouldn't be any changes. Only then did he search for his final hope, that mysterious summoning. This summoning was only 2 lines of text. The 2 lines of text on the bottle were divided into 2 parts with 2 contents. Pay attention. When they put realm fruits in the medicinal wine, absorb as much as you can. Medicinal wine. This was only medicinal wine, only medicinal wine. Chu Yang's scalp exploded and his hair stood on end. He couldn't say a word for a long time. He couldn't help but think of the medicinal wine in his memories, as well as the poisonous snakes, fruits, and medicinal ingredients soaked in the wine. That was the medicinal wine in his memories. What kind of bullshit medicinal wine was this? Could it be that the sovereign-level golden dragon was nothing more than a poisonous snake soaked in wine? That was a dragon, a sovereign-level dragon. In front of a sovereign, Chu Yang had an incomparably deep understanding. He was at most a mouse, or perhaps not even a mouse. However, in this place, a sovereign-level golden dragon was nothing more than a poisonous snake. They wouldn't use a sovereign-level golden dragon to soak in medicinal wine. Suddenly, Chu Yang thought of this and immediately felt nauseous. If that was the case, then what he had absorbed before had all been decomposed from corpses. What bullshit great fortune, fuck your lungs, #yen%. Chu Yang was a careless person. Now, he couldn't help but activate the 3-character classic to vent his anger. It was only when he suddenly realized that if this was the medicinal wine, the poisonous snake that was soaked in it would definitely still be there, and he needed to verify it, that he stopped. He couldn't wait to rush up. His descendant was dumbfounded. What was that? What did he see? White tiger, azure dragon, vermilion bird, black tortoise, gauchon, qilin, phoenix, and many other godly beasts and ferocious beasts were floating above his head like stars. They were scattered all over the place like stars on a chessboard. There was not the slightest hint of dignity to be seen from them. Whose medicinal wine was this outrageous? Whose medicinal wine was so heaven-defying? All the godly beasts and ferocious beasts in the world seemed to have been captured and thrown into the wine, and the godly beasts and ferocious beasts seemed to have gone extinct. There were so many godly beasts, and all of them were sovereigns. Even though Chu Yang had always been bold, at this moment, he couldn't help but turn pale. His lips turned blue, and he couldn't help but tremble. Everything was simply too unimaginable. It was completely beyond his comprehension, completely beyond his imagination. He even suspected that he was hallucinating. However, no matter how much he activated his cultivation, nothing changed. It was still the same as before. Everything has been turned upside down. Sovereigns, existences at the peak of the martial path, were actually used to soak in medicinal wine. Chu Yang muttered to himself in a daze. This was too shocking, and it shattered his original understanding. Chapter 1774. Too ridiculous. This is simply too ridiculous. Chu Yang still couldn't accept this. He felt that the world was too crazy for something like this to actually exist. According to the words left on the bottle, his previous guess was generally correct. Although this wasn't a porcelain bottle, it was definitely a porcelain wine jar or something else. The realm fruit is just an appetizer. They won't feel too much pain if they lose a few. Only if I steal their realm cauldron will they feel the pain and go crazy. Chu Yang read the contents of the second line of words. He didn't even have the energy to curse, much less become flustered and exasperated, such terrifying enemies, and the person who left this message actually wanted him to steal their heart? Crazy, this person who left this message was definitely crazy. He was even more daring than Chu Yang, even more deranged. Who is this bastard who left this message? Who are the they that this bastard is talking about? At the same time, many questions popped up in Chu Yang's mind. He suspected that someone was playing a joke, an enormous joke. It's just 2 lines of words. How can they summon me so strongly? Logically speaking, if there's no connection at all, how is this possible? Questions came one after another. Chu Yang thought of this question, then shook his head in denial. How is it impossible for such people to do anything to them? How can I try to figure them out from my own perspective? It's just a futile effort. How do I escape? What he was doing seemed laughable as he spoke to the 2 lines of words. The result seemed to be expected. There was no reply, and the 2 lines of words didn't change at all. Are you waiting for me to steal that so-called realm fruit? Inference, just inference. Since the other party had left a message, there should be follow-up content. Chu Yang couldn't help but look up again. His pupils involuntarily constricted at the star-like corpse of the sovereign-level divine beast. Impossible! The divine beast's corpse made him completely give up on escaping from above. Not to mention the might exuded by the divine beast's corpse, even if he passed that level, he probably wouldn't be able to reach the opening of the medicinal wine bottle. That kind of distance seemed short, but it might be the distance of a universe. This was definitely not an exaggeration. Nothing was impossible in this medicinal wine. In addition, the medicinal wine was mostly sealed, and the top had already been blocked. Even if it wasn't blocked, the other side was probably extremely terrifying. Anyone who encountered it would definitely die without a complete cork. Moreover, the other side didn't even need to make a move. As long as he got close to it, he would explode with a bang, turning into ashes. I hope the person who left this message isn't a scammer, but a super big scammer who will scam me until I don't even have a corpse left. There was no other choice. This was the only choice, even if it was unreliable. After that, there was only waiting, endless waiting. Without the sun and the moon, time became incomparably long in Chu Yang's perception. His judgment of time became even more erroneous, making it even harder for him to determine how much time had passed. Dong. After an unknown period of time, something else fell from above. The sound produced by the medicinal wine might not be loud, but to Chu Yang, it was as if the earth was being beaten by a large drum. It was incomparably intense. Soon, there was a brief moment of darkness. After that, it was as if there were 3 stars falling from the sky. They fell rapidly and quickly shrank halfway. At this time, Chu Yang saw 3 fruit. They looked like strawberries, but they were the size of a fist. Other than that, there was nothing special about them. Realm fruits? Chu Yang narrowed his eyes, unsure. He muttered to himself, if these are realm fruits, it doesn't seem difficult to collect them. Chapter 1775. The 2 lines of words on the bottle wall changed again, releasing dazzling light, revealing the content. There is indeed a follow-up. Chu Yang was not very surprised, but he did not immediately move, because he still had time. After the 3 fruits fell to the bottom, the speed at which they floated up was very slow, enough for him to think for a while. There must be something wrong when things are abnormal. The so-called realm fruit is no different from ordinary fruits, and this is the most shocking part. Returning to the origin, returning to the essence was even more shocking. Unfortunately, I have no choice but to risk it all. Thinking was useless. So what if he could think it through? So what if he couldn't? Even if he knew that there was a mountain of blades and a sea of flames ahead, he could only brace himself and charge forward. Swoosh! He quickly dove down and grabbed the first fruit that floated up, but he did not feel anything at all. He grabbed empty air. The fruit also disappeared. Incomparably miraculous. However, at this moment, Chu Yang faintly felt as if something had entered his body. Immediately, his whole body expanded rapidly like a rubber ball and was about to explode. However, at this moment, he did not panic at all, only astonishment. Rumble! His 11 heavenly abodes were activated immediately, and rumbling sounds were heard, as if a heavenly river had poured into them. The 11 heavenly abodes instantly lit up, but he could not feel anything inside. Dong! Chu Yang's body trembled violently, as if a divine spear had directly pierced into his 11 heavenly abodes. After reaching the bottom, it once again tried to pierce through his heavenly abodes. In an instant, he could clearly see that the 11 heavenly abodes were stretched out like rubber bands, infinitely extending. He could feel more and more heavenly abodes, but they also became smaller and smaller. Bang! Chu Yang's body trembled again, as if he had been hit by a rubber band that had retracted. After that, he sensed that there were 100 heavenly abodes. He originally had 11 heavenly abodes, which meant that the so-called realm fruit had opened up 89 heavenly abodes. 100 heavenly abodes, he was scared to death. Unimaginable and unbelievable. Chu Yang was so astonished that it took him a while before he quivered and activated the 3-character scripture again. No wonder that bastard told me to act within my means. If I hadn't mastered the profound mysteries of the infinite sovereign, I would have been wiped out. I wouldn't even know how I died. He felt like he had just survived a calamity, but when he saw the 2 fruits floating up again, he fiercely gritted his teeth. This young master doesn't believe that you can stuff this young master to death. Although he didn't know what the world fruit was, he didn't need to think about it to know that it was absolutely world-shaking. How could he miss out on it? The gap between Chu Yang and that terrifying existence was so huge. If he didn't fight, what hope did he have? If he couldn't even eat a single fruit from the other party, how could he stand at the same height as these terrifying existences? He was indeed ambitious. To be more precise, he didn't want to be reduced to pigs and sheep, so he worked hard in advance. He was even more unaccustomed to it. Apart from humans, there was an even more supreme species that completely crushed humans. If such a species appeared one day, he hoped that he would at least have the ability to resist. The Destiny Twins' martial spirits. Chu Yang roared in his heart. He fiercely grabbed the 2 fruits at the same time. However, the feeling was different from before. Perhaps it was because he had used the Destiny Twins' martial spirit. But the 2 fruits were firmly grabbed by him. He felt as if they were real. The two fruits were like strawberries, and the feeling was like two strawberries. In addition, both of them were slightly cold. Chapter 1776. The Kingdom of God originally only created angels. At this time, countless divine light bloomed. Light, majestic, and universal love constantly appeared, as if they were gods. Finally, the appearance of the light and shadow seemed to make the kingdom of God into the kingdom of gods. The gospel of God resounded, and the light of hope illuminated the heart. At the center of the light, it suddenly collapsed and extended out infinitely. It was unknown where it led to. It was just like a light transmission in the universe, without an end. The kingdom of demons was generally similar to the kingdom of God. The difference was that one was God and the other was demon. One was the kingdom of gods and the other was the kingdom of demons. What surprised Chu Yang the most was that the two worlds became real. They became real worlds, like two-dimensional worlds. They were no longer as illusory as before. It was equivalent to a representation. 100 grotto heavens, the kingdom of gods, the kingdom of demons, no matter which one it was, the transformation was amazing. However, Chu Yang found that he didn't improve at all. He didn't know the reason, but he felt that everything was used to fill a hole. Now leave with me and steal the world cauldron. Let those bastards go crazy. The words left on the wall of the bottle changed again. First, it turned into a line of words. Then, these words flew out one by one and turned into a needle. A needle for embroidery, sewing, and mending, a needle for household use. It was simple and unadorned. There was nothing strange about it, and there was absolutely no difference. This, Chu Yang's heart was perturbed and full of suspicions. However, he could only suppress all the suspicions, thoughts, and worries in his heart. Because it was useless. Even if the person who left the message said that shit was gold, he had to try to believe it. Before he left, he crazily absorbed the matter of the lower 3 levels again. Then, he touched the needle. This needle pierced his fingertip and absorbed a drop of his essence blood. After it connected with Chu Yang's mind, everything arranged in it was activated. It silently pierced the wall of the bottle and brought Chu Yang into the bottle. The bottle wall was like a person. The countless veins were the meridians of a person. However, they were so huge that it felt like stars could pass through them. Among them, Chu Yang was a microorganism, or perhaps a parasite. He once again felt the terror of the other party. Its speed was extremely fast. As the needle shuttled through space, it would occasionally jump through space and time, but it never reached the end. Who can explain to me what kind of world I am in right now? Chu Yang couldn't help but feel his scalp go numb again. It was just a bottle wall, but it was like a boundless universe, making him feel like a speck of dust. He had had enough of this feeling of being so small and insignificant. Perhaps he had been provoked too much, or perhaps it was a combination of both. After a long time, a chi sound was heard. That needle pierced through like a piece of cloth, and finally brought Chu Yang out. As soon as he came out of the bottle wall and entered a brand new and strange world, Chu Yang didn't have time to size up anything when a dazzling and scorching light directly pierced into his eyes. His eyes were immediately burned, and it was extremely painful. At the same time, several rays of light fell on his body. Instantly, white smoke billowed out. His body that had become a god's flesh was corroded into bloody holes. The holes were so deep that his bones could be seen. He was melting like snow. Boom. Not only that, his entire body was suddenly ignited. Like garbage being burned, black smoke billowed out and mixed with the white smoke. Have I been fooled? This needle might have been specially arranged by the person who soaked the medicinal wine to deal with the insects that sneaked into the medicinal wine. Chapter 1777. Sunlight, it's sunlight. It's just sunlight. Chu Yang realized this and felt even more sorrowful. He couldn't even resist the sunlight of this world. He was even worse than an ant in this world. Sorrowful and powerless. Ever since he recalled the memories of his previous life and awakened the Destiny Twins' martial spirit, he had spent most of his time bitterly cultivating. He had toyed with opponents who were far more powerful than him. His performance had shocked the world and was extremely dazzling. He had even claimed to be invincible. But now, he couldn't even resist the sunlight of an unknown world. He was going to die and his life was going to end. Such a huge gap really made him feel defeated. What kind of world is this? How can there be such a terrifying creature that uses a sovereign realm divine beast to brew medicinal wine? He suddenly mocked himself. How can an ant know how big the world is? Take humans for example. In his previous life, humans thought they had discovered the universe. Perhaps the so-called universe was just a speck of dust. How could they struggle and resist? Rumble. The 3 kinds of substances that Chu Yang had swallowed surged out and repaired his injured body. Then, his body was once again corroded and melted by the sunlight, alternating between the two. That needle only brought him forward to the place where the sunlight was the most intense. It caused the 3 substances in Chu Yang's body to be consumed even faster. This young master is too lazy to care. Chu Yang directly used the Destiny Twins' martial spirit and fell into a deep sleep. If the Destiny Twins' martial spirit was of no use, then he could only surrender. He was willful and pessimistic. He was as weak as a child. His nature was exposed again and his illness acted up again. Kid, wake up. It's time to work. Who is it? Chu Yang, who didn't know the sun and moon and didn't have the concept of time and space, was stimulated by a divine thought from his deep sleep. He immediately woke up and spoke. Then, he found that he didn't die, but the 3 substances in his body were completely consumed. The sunlight was still the sunlight. It was even more poisonous. When it landed on Chu Yang's body, it was still burning. However, it could no longer corrode or burn his body. The place he was in seemed to be an abyss. It was incomparably long and narrow. But surprisingly, the 2 sides of the abyss were almost parallel. The person who helped you steal the World Cauldron. World Cauldron? Chu Yang patted his head and thought to himself, looks like the person who left the message didn't lie to me. It's just that I'm too two-faced, too pessimistic, and always think of the worst. When can I change this habit of mine? Being a person with nothing to do is better than looking at the sky in a cesspool. He recalled his previous actions and smiled bitterly. He was really unbearable. Unbearable, my ass. Chu Yang, you are outstanding. You are one of a kind. Erroneous thoughts kept popping up. It was like a person sitting on a tilt board. When one sat on the other end would tilt up. He was actually dissatisfied with himself. It was the stupidest emotion and the most wrong way of thinking. If he couldn't even accept himself, what was the point of being a human being and living? I can't live like this anymore. Chu Yang's song resounded from the abyss, like the joyful chirping of a bug. The reason why he described it this way was because, under the guidance of the needle, when he flew out of the so-called abyss, he discovered that the so-called abyss was just a gap between 2 stone bricks. I'm smaller than an ant. Chapter 1778. This square may be huge for a giant. Plus, I'm not even as big as an ant, so it's easy for me to be blocked. After a while, under the guidance of the flying needles, Chu Yang didn't find the so-called World Cauldron at all. He only found a mountain. The mountain was made of metal. It went straight into the 9 heavens and disappeared into the clouds. He didn't know what kind of metal the mountain was made of, but it was bronze. Are you stupid? The voice of the previous person came again. Chu Yang was slightly stunned and then blurted out, this mountain is the World Cauldron, one of the legs of the World Cauldron? He was speechless. What do you think? There was a teasing tone in the voice. What I want to say is, you should be like this before, right? Chu Yang's natural personality showed again, as if he was facing an acquaintance. He directly said with disdain, "Big brother, don't laugh at second brother. I say, big brother, don't tell me you weren't like this before. TSK, how can I be like you, with no eyesight?" Chu Yang was relieved. It seemed that he was on the same side, so he completely opened up the doubts in his heart. "I say, big brother, where is this place with such a personality? You aunt, it's better that you don't know. The more you know, the faster you die. Don't you understand? So, big brother, you're dead, right? Almost like an ant to be crushed to death. It's so frustrating." Chu Yang was stunned, and then he felt relieved. This world was terrifyingly powerful. It was an indisputable fact. "Big brother, I sympathize with you." Chu Yang further recovered his original personality and said casually, "If you have any unbearable past, I will be the best listener, a brother who understands you and soothe your wounded heart. If there is a beautiful girl in the family, and you need me to take care of her, I will definitely not let her be a widow. As for a child with a runny nose, I will politely decline. Please don't look for me." "Ha!" The voice couldn't help but laugh. "No wonder you, a mere ant, can actually break in here. You are indeed a lawless person. You even dare to make fun of me." "TSK, so what if it's big?" Chu Yang disdainfully said again. "Could it be that you've heard that although they're big, they're only pleasing to the eye but not useful? On the contrary, they're short and vigorous, good for long battles." "Ha ha!" The voice laughed heartily again. Obviously, he understood the dirty words in Chu Yang's words. He then said, "Brat, you dare to look down on the people here? You have guts. Big brother, are you belittling me? I even look down on my own people, let alone outsiders." Chu Yang had completely let go of his pride. Then, he started to think of his own ideas. "Big brother, just tell me. How do you want to torment this big thing? By the way, tell this little brother the way home. This abnormal world is not a place for humans. How you leave this place has nothing to do with me. I am only responsible for helping you collect the world cauldron." "Big brother, is number one in charge?" Chu Yang was greatly disappointed. He still wanted to know more. "Ha ha!" The voice laughed again and said, "He was the one who lured you here. Naturally, he should be responsible for it." "Big brother, is number one also dead?" "He should be dead." "Then how will he be responsible?" "Who knows?" Chu Yang muttered, "Then I can only ask a ghost." "Big brother, number two, wait for a moment. I'll be back soon." He planned to run away. The world cauldron could make the people of this strange world feel pain. Once it was taken, it would definitely turn the world upside down. Before he knew how to run, he didn't plan to do such a stupid thing. The flying needle didn't move. Chu Yang didn't even have a bird, he didn't have a leg. Chapter 1779. Big brother number one, you're really unreasonable. Chu Yang was depressed. This was forcing herself on him, and he was forced to do it. "You little fellow are interesting. Such a great opportunity is in front of you, and you are still trying to reject it." That voice spoke again. "Your big brother number one, even if he dies, he will definitely be prepared. May I ask big brother number two, what is your name?" Chu Yang didn't know anything, he was like a fool. He was really unhappy and started to beat around the bush again. "I have long forgotten my name, you can call me Bing. Is it enough to brag? If I say you are my big brother number two, will they tremble in fear?" Bing only had one word, it wasn't mighty or domineering, it was just a perfunctory answer. Chu Yang was unwilling to give up. He continued, I'm afraid it's not enough to brag. Big brother number two, you can use your younger brother to brag in the future. This humble one is called Chu Yang, courtesy name Woody. Enough, at least it is more useful than you're invincible? This meant that just the word Bing contained a lot of information. It was a famous name. This is a big shot. When this thought appeared in Chu Yang's mind, he knew that he was stupid. How could someone who could help him steal the world cauldron in such a world be a small shot? He was really blinded by greed. Kid, stop talking nonsense, pay attention, the voice said. After I help you take the world cauldron, this remnant soul will definitely be wiped out and there will be useless big guys coming. Life and death is up to you. Don't be in such a rush, big brother number 2, let's talk a bit more. We haven't even talked about this woman yet, how inappropriate. Chu Yang delayed. He wanted to know more information so that he could be prepared. Otherwise, he would be in the dark and not know anything. He could only run into a wall. Kid, stop beating around the bush. I told you before, the more you know, the faster you will die. The voice didn't drag out the last syllable, but Chu Yang felt that it was especially long. Who was this Bing? Why did he cooperate with the person who left the message to help him steal the world cauldron? Was this world evil beyond redemption, or did it control the order of the heavens? Were these two evil people with ulterior motives, or were they heroes who disregarded life and death? If the world cauldron was stolen, what would happen? What would happen? Chu Yang didn't know what was right or wrong, and he had no way to judge. He didn't feel any malice from this world. It was just that this world was too shocking and made him feel defeated. However, if the other party was too strong and he had to defeat them, it might not be a bad thing. The person who left the message and the person in the world cauldron seemed to be helping him, but they were not necessarily good people. He had always done things with a scale in his heart, but this was the first time he felt so bottomless. It was useless even if he asked. If the person who left the message and the person in the world cauldron had evil intentions, why would they tell him? For a moment, Chu Yang's mind was in a mess. He hated this kind of ignorance. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Just as he was thinking about all these, the ground beneath his feet crumbled. It was as though the ground was flipped over. He was buried by endless dust, like Sun Wukong being pressed under the five-finger mountain. He felt extremely heavy and couldn't move at all. The flying needles did not move. Chu Yang was buried. He also lost his senses. In such a world, he seemed so small. If there was any movement, he would be buried. Furthermore, he was being manipulated. It was already not bad that he didn't die. Therefore, he only felt a huge tremor, a tremor that could destroy the heavens and earth, as well as a huge rumbling sound. Then, he felt a small cauldron flying towards him. In a flash, it disappeared into his heavenly abode and disappeared. To him, all of this happened without any warning. He was caught off guard. Brat, goodbye. Bing's final voice did not have a trace of sadness or happiness. It was extremely calm. Such a blunt person, he should be a good person. Chu Yang thought to himself. Goodbye, big brother, goodbye, Bing. Bing was dead. It was his turn. If the world cauldron was a treasure, and the people of this world found out that it was stolen, they would definitely go crazy. Chu Yang was the first to go crazy. Broken Needle, it's your turn. If you don't move, this young master will be killed. Yen hashtag yen %%. Roar! But in an instant, the roar and the language that he could not understand was like thunder beside his ears. It rumbled into Chu Yang's ears. Although Chu Yang did not feel the other party's shock, and did not see the other party, but he could clearly feel that the dust covering his body flew up, revealing him. Then, he saw two eyes that were as big as stars. The two gazes were like two meteorites falling down. Chu Yang did not feel any danger. It was as though he was an ant and did not know the strength of humans. Hashtag. The two words were spat out. It seemed to mean an ant. The voice was extremely loud. The sound waves were like two lightning punishments striking an ant. It's over. I'm really going to die this time. Chu Yang roared at the flying needles. Broken array, you bastard. You forced this young master just now. Why can't you do it now? Buzz buzz buzz. Chapter 1780. At this moment, Chu Yang thought of the past, when he raised his foot and stepped on the ants. The difference was that he was an ant now, and the one who wanted to step on him was a giant among giants. Stepping on ants is really a heinous crime. This is what it means to think from another perspective. Chu Yang felt that his thoughts were a little strange. At this moment, he was thinking about these things, but he didn't feel fear or uneasiness at all. For this, he felt a little better. The ants he stepped on in the past probably didn't have any fear before they died. Buzz buzz buzz. The big hand was about to fall down. The flying needle seemed to have finished brewing. It flew towards the big hand with a whooshing sound, just like how Jing-Ku had pierced the Qin Emperor. It flew towards the big hand while carrying Chu Yang. Counterattack. That's powerful! Chu Yang couldn't help but exclaim. The person who left the message was actually fearless and had great courage. Otherwise, how could he do such a thing? Maybe when the ant was about to die, it also sent out a fatal attack. With a rumbling sound, the flying needle pierced through the giant palm, and blood gushed out like a torrential river. The sound of water rumbled and shook the sky. Chu Yang was drenched, but he was safe and sound. Logically speaking, Chu Yang would definitely die if he touched the blood of such a level of creature, because it contained supreme rules, but he was safe and sound now. However, he faintly understood that this should be related to the world cauldron. Sure enough, he slightly sensed that in the deepest part of the grotto heaven, the 100th grotto heaven, the world cauldron was emitting a weak light at this moment. No wonder I didn't feel any pressure when the giant creature appeared. I'm afraid it will be the same in the future. I have to be careful. If those supreme existences find out, they will definitely suspect that I have a treasure on me. When Chu Yang had such a thought, the flying needle brought him into the palm. It was not much different from when it went into the wall of the bottle. It was still jumping among the countless meridians, and the same feeling of being in the universe. The difference was that this time, in the countless meridians, there was boiling hot blood, making people feel like they were in boiling water. The light that the world cauldron released in the grotto heaven was slightly brighter than before. It made Chu Yang feel like he was soaking in a hot bath. He was not hurt at all. Haha, today, I'm going to learn from the great sage and enter the body of a demon to wreak havoc. Chu Yang roared with laughter. Who would have the same luck as him? A mere ant challenging the might of an unmatched existence? Unfortunately, he wasn't the one who initiated the action. He was just a follower, which made him feel that it wasn't enough. If I don't die, there will be such an opportunity in the future. At that time, I will definitely learn from the great sage Sun and turn the world upside down, making it restless. His intuition told him that the person who left him a message ought to have found a flaw in such a supreme being, and that was why he was able to act like this. He couldn't help but exclaim repeatedly with admiration in his heart. Even if this person isn't a hero, he's surely a formidable figure. I have no choice but to admire his boldness. Such an unmatched existence, for normal people, they might only feel fear, or perhaps even submission. Who dared to resist? Not to mention finding a flaw in such a supreme being. Chu Yang looked back at his own actions and realized that his first reaction was fear. Wasn't he always thinking about escaping? How could they have the courage to fight with him? How could they have the courage to fight with him? Roar! Chapter 1781. At the same time, the Supreme Being also sent something into his body to chase after the flying needle. Behind him, Chu Yang could clearly see blood-colored chains of order approaching at an extremely fast speed, as if the black and white impermanence had come to capture his soul. Bang! 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 The flying needle began to wreak havoc, piercing through the meridians, blasting out large holes one after another. It even went back and forth, breaking the entire meridians. Loud explosions rang out incessantly. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The chains of order became faster and crazier, and more. The flying needle disappeared with a space-time jump. Suddenly, Chu Yang saw a cloudless sky for thousands of miles. Then, he flew towards this cloudless sky. Ah! A miserable scream that tore the sky and almost shattered Chu Yang's eardrums. Blood began to flow from his 7 orifices. Fortunately, he had the protection of the world cauldron. Otherwise, he would have turned into ashes. At this moment, he realized that the flying needle had directly pierced through one of the Supreme Being's eyeballs. Whoosh! The flying needle turned back and once again entered the other eye of the Supreme Being, constantly shuttling back and forth, wantonly destroying it. Although the flying needle was extremely small, how could such a fragile part like the eye be unable to withstand it? Domineering enough. Who exactly is the person who left this message? Just a flying needle left behind almost turned the world upside down. Chu Yang was even more impressed by this person. Chi. After the flying needle crazily destroyed the Supreme Being's eyes, it directly pierced through the Supreme Being's brain, once again causing great destruction. It tormented the Supreme Being until he could neither live nor die. It even wanted to kill him, leaving Chu Yang dumbfounded. What a big heart! Even an ant wants to kill a divine elephant. However, Chu Yang was thinking too much. The Supreme Being had defensive means. The flying needle did not succeed. It immediately jumped through space-time and left the Supreme Being's body in the blink of an eye, disappearing into the void. During this process, Chu Yang did not know where he was. He only realized that he was crazily traveling along a dark path. During this period, huge dark stars constantly flew past. The light released by the world cauldron in the grotto heaven became stronger and stronger, overflowing out of his body and protecting him. Buzz, buzz, buzz. During the flying needle's flight, it continuously shook. The unmatched creature's essence blood adhered to it, causing great damage to the flying needle. Fine cracks already covered its surface, vaguely looking like it was going to explode and turn into fine powder. Chu Yang tried to transfer the power of the world cauldron to the flying needle, but he found that he could not activate the world cauldron at all. With a loud rumble, the flying needle drilled into the barrier of a certain world, but as soon as it did, it exploded. Pooh! Chu Yang suffered a huge blow. He spat out a large mouthful of snow, which also contained fragments of his internal organs. His internal organs were in great pain. The protective power of the world cauldron disappeared without warning at this moment. Fortunately, before it disappeared, it blocked almost all of the power of the explosion of the flying needles. Bang! Chu Yang fell straight down from the sky like an awl, straight into the ground. He did not cause a huge explosion, but instead sank deep into the ground. Now, his physical body was simply too strong. It was even sturdier than a divine weapon and was almost as sharp as a divine weapon. His physical body had become a god. This was definitely not just a saying. Chu Yang was severely injured. He could not move at all underground. He directly activated the Destiny Twins' martial spirits and fell into a deep sleep. Once again, he handed over everything to his martial spirit. When he woke up, he found that he was no longer underground. Instead, he saw the Ice Kun and Zhu Beiji. His eyes widened. What's going on? Where am I? Why am I seeing the Ice Kun and Beiji? Is this an illusion? He used his palm as a knife and cut off a piece of flesh from Beiji's body. Chapter 1782. It seems to be true. I must have returned to the world of gods and Kun found me. In the end, Chu Yang was able to confirm all of this. Everything that had happened before was like a dream. Now that he thought about it, he felt that it was incomparably unreal. It was as if nothing had happened, and he had only had a dream. The divine beast of the sovereign realm used to make wine, the person who left the message, the flying needle, the strange world, the soldiers in the world cauldron, and the supreme beings, all these seemed to be non-existent, but it was definitely not a dream. Chu Yang's 100 grotto heavens were real. In the first 100 grotto heavens, the world cauldron was like a mountain suppressing it, making the 100 grotto heavens even more astonishing and sturdy. Phew! Chu Yang heaved a long sigh of relief. He sorted out his emotions and calmed down completely. Then, he asked, Kun, where are we now? Master, you don't know? Bing Kun was very surprised because in his opinion, Chu Yang must have returned because he had seen the message he had left behind. Beast Abyss. Bing Kun did not need to answer. While speaking, Chu Yang glanced around slightly and was directly stunned on the spot. This was not the most important thing. At this moment, he was suddenly at the place where he had first entered the world of God. At that time, the thunder tribulation had broken through the barrier of the world of gods and the world origin had emerged. Because of this, he had cultivated 11 grotto heavens and obtained the inheritance of the infinite sovereign. The flying needle had brought him back here? Could it be that this had something to do with the infinite sovereign? For a moment, Chu Yang was stunned on the spot. Bing Kun instantly understood. Chu Yang did not know that he had returned to the Beast Abyss and returned to the spacetime passage. Master must have experienced something incredible. Otherwise, with Master's careless mind, it would be impossible for him to be like this. But what exactly did Master experience during this period? Bing Kun had never seen Chu Yang like this before. His eyes were blurred, as if he was sleepwalking. Xing Deity, it seems that the little Xing Deity has lost his soul. Quickly treat him, or it will be too late. Zhu Beiji suggested. I think we should hit the little Saint Deity's head hard. I'm sure the medicine will be able to cure him. As soon as they met, Chu Yang cut off a piece of Zhu Beiji's pork and roasted it. Zhu Beiji's heart was filled with resentment, and he couldn't suppress the demon in his heart that wanted revenge. Thus, even though he knew that the consequences would be severe and that he would be in a miserable state, he still opened his mouth and urged the ice Kun on for the sake of that slight possibility. Bing Kun patted Zhu Beiji's head without making a sound. He just rolled his eyes at Zhu Beiji. Little guy, do you think your grandpa Kun is a fool? Who was his master? He was known as Chu Hang, Bastard Chu, Destitute Chu, Shameless Chu. He had all kinds of attribute. He always took advantage of others and never suffered losses. He was two-faced to the extreme. At the same time, he was narrow-minded and proficient in all kinds of tricks. Playing child's play with such a master was child's play. If he was remembered, he didn't know how to cry in the future. Zhu Beiji smirked and probed again. Xing Deity, why don't you do it? Why don't I do it? Bing Kun was completely convinced. This pig was actually thinking of something good. He didn't know that he was courting death. Did I stop you? Zhu Beiji heard this and grinned from ear to ear. As long as Bing Kun didn't stop him, it would be fine. As for giving King Chu a slap on the back of his head, there were too many reasons. Wasn't this all for King Chu's good? Later, he could use disrespect to show his supreme concern and loyalty. King Chu would be so touched that he would not only praise him, but also reward him handsomely. Chapter 1783. Smack. Zhu Beiji wasn't happy. Not only had he delivered a solid slap, he'd used all his strength. However, he'd controlled his strength perfectly. It wasn't too much, but it wasn't too little either. I really am a genius, heh. Zhu Beiji was overjoyed. All that was left was for him to express his loyalty to Chu Yang and explain his painstaking efforts. He'd already prepared his lines and was even mulling over them over. Chu Yang was hit hard on the back of his head, and he immediately sobered up. He hurriedly said to Bing Kuan, Kuan, do you think it's possible that the infinite dominator had long known when, where, and how I would enter the God's world? So he had prepared everything early on, and was waiting for my arrival? That was the only logical explanation for why he'd received the infinite dominator's legacy, why he'd experienced everything, and why he'd returned to this place. The infinite dominator had seen through everything and knew what Chu Yang was going to do. He'd already made the necessary arrangements. The infinite dominator? Zhu Beiji, who'd been all smiles, stumbled and fell to the ground when he heard the name. He happened to know who the infinite dominator was, but didn't the infinite dominator say that he was the Meridian? Zhu Beiji was scared out of his wits. Who would have thought this bastard was related to the infinite dominator? The Kuan was also stunned. Master, you're not part of fate. Even the Alpha Dominator can't detect you. The infinite dominator shouldn't be able to. What's impossible? Chu Yang spoke even faster. Kuan, have you ever heard of using a sovereign divine beast to make medicinal wine? Using a sovereign divine beast to make medicinal wine. Was that even possible? Zhu Beiji's eyes widened as he stared at Chu Yang. Are you stupid? Soon after, he muttered to himself, could it be that this genius power is so shocking that I can really beat a bastard into a fool and establish supreme merit? Chu Yang pushed Zhu Beiji's face to the side. Kuan, have you ever heard of a sovereign being nothing more than an ant? Hegemons were nothing but ants. Zhu Beiji felt even more amazed. He couldn't help but stretch out his neck and turn his black face towards Chu Yang again. He sized Chu Yang up from head to toe and directly said, It can't be. I've really beaten this son of a bitch into a fool. How can he say such stupid things? After that, he muttered to himself, I'm afraid that I might have accidentally become a bodhisattva and saved thousands of lives in the world. My merit is unprecedented and will never be matched by anyone else. I'm sure I won't be a pig in my next life. He was pulled away again. Kuan, have you heard that the gap between two bricks is an endless abyss to us? Ha ha! Zhu Beiji pointed at Chu Yang and burst into laughter. Have you ever heard of world fruits and world cauldrons? Have you ever heard of a person like Bing? Bing. The Kuan, who was in a daze, suddenly screamed. Master, the Bing you're talking about is the master of soldiers. Not only was his body trembling, but his lips were also trembling. His voice was also trembling. His pupils were dilated as if he was about to die. He was extremely shocked. Chapter 1784. The Master of Weapons. Chu Yang was also slightly taken aback. His eyes were unfocused as he looked into the distance. He opened his mouth and said, I don't know if he is the Master of Weapons, but he called himself Bing, and said that one word was enough. At this moment, he finally understood why the so-called Bing could collect the boundary cauldron for him. Why couldn't the Master of Weapons? Then he must be the Master of Weapons. The Ice Kuan calmed down and continued, Other than the Master of Weapons, no one dares to call themselves Bing. What about the others? The Ice Kuan's pupils suddenly shrank, and its eyes became blurred. It seemed to be recalling carefully, and then it said, Soaking a sovereign-level divine beast in medicinal wine. My ancestor once said such words before he died. At that time, we all thought that he was delirious and was talking nonsense. Who would have thought that such a thing actually happened? Ah! A scream pierced into the ears of Chu Yang and the Ice Kuan. They were all awakened. They saw Zhu Beiji rolling and crawling on the ground as if he had gone mad from fright. He plowed a layer of the ground as he trembled and curled into a ball. This pig also knows fear. Chu Yang and the Ice Kuan shook their heads and then couldn't help but laugh. The two of them were shocked before, but it didn't mean that they didn't know what this pig had done. But they didn't have time to care about Zhu Beiji. Master, is it true that using sovereign-level divine beasts to make medicinal wine really exists? The Ice Kuan asked seriously. Chu Yang thought of the scene before and his face became serious. He nodded with certainty and said, "It does exist. I saw it with my own eyes. At the bottom of the medicinal wine, I looked up and saw that it was densely packed with the corpses of divine beasts like the azure dragon, the white tiger, the vermilion bird, the qilin, the phoenix, and so on. They were like stars suspended in the sky. I'm afraid I will never forget such a scene for the rest of my life." It seems that the ridiculous story that has been passed down in the Kuanping clan is also true. One of our ancestors was captured to make medicinal wine. The Ice Kuan's tone was also very serious. The Kuanping clan was so powerful and free. They roamed the universe and were unrestrained. But such a powerful Kuanping was still reduced to such a state. How could he not sigh? It was no wonder that his master Chu Yang had such a look just now. No matter how thick-skinned a person was, he would probably be scared out of his wits after seeing such a scene. After that, Chu Yang avoided Zhu Beiji and told the Ice Kuan what he saw in the strange world. The Ice Kuan was speechless for a long time. Ice Kuan generally agreed with Chu Yang's judgment. The infinite dominator had long been prepared. He had been waiting for his master Chu Yang to complete such a task. Inferring from this, his master would definitely be the main figure in many major events in the future. He might even be the decisive figure. The Ice Kuan didn't say this out loud. He was afraid that his master would be disgusted by it. "I'm afraid that my master is destined. Maybe it's the will of our ancestors?" The Ice Kuan couldn't help but have such a thought. When he looked at Chu Yang again, he agreed with his own judgment. He was the first person in the divine world who had become a god with a physical body. The infinite dominator and the master of 10,000 weapons were the two supreme figures in the legends. How many people in the world could enter their eyes, let alone an ant like his master? However, both of them valued their master so much that they were paving the way for his master. What did this mean? Chapter 1785. Master, please don't tell anyone about this in the future. Otherwise, you will be in deep trouble. In the end, the Ice Kuan solemnly reminded him of this. Chu Yang nodded. The Lord of Weapons had once told him that the more he knew, the faster he would die. This world is not as simple as I thought. Chu Yang's arrogance and sharpness had almost completely disappeared. He no longer felt that he was extraordinary or impressive. There was always someone better than you, and there was always someone better than you. He could only truly understand such a superficial logic after experiencing it so deeply. "Beiji, come here." Chu Yang buried all these thoughts in his heart and threw them to the back of his mind. He returned to his original self and waved at Zhu Beiji. Zhu Beiji's face instantly turned as black as charcoal. "I'm done for." Zhu Beiji said with a smile. "Little saint, I was just worried that you were possessed. That was why I spoke so rudely." He raised his hand and swore, "But this pig swears that I am not petty. This pig is loyal to the little saint. The heavens and the earth can be my witness. I am willing to go through fire and water for you." Chu Yang smiled and said, "Who did you just call a fool?" Me. Zhu Beiji was sweating profusely. "I heard that you accidentally turned into a bodhisattva just now. Is that true?" Chu Yang rolled up his sleeves and cracked his knuckles. He looked like he was about to kill a pig. The smile on his face grew even wider. Oh my, did this bastard lose his mind? How can he remember it so clearly? This genius is really going to die this time. Zhu Beiji wept inwardly for a while before he immediately said, "Little Saint God, you were so bewitched that I had no choice but to provoke you. I didn't expect it to work immediately. I, Beiji, am so happy that I'm about to cry." Sob. Zhu Beiji burst into tears. His teardrops the size of beans immediately fell. He looked like he was crying tears of joy. A talent, no, a pig talent. Bing Kuan was full of admiration. His shamelessness was comparable to his master's. Beiji, I saw you laughing very loudly just now. Am I very funny? Chu Yang was completely unmoved by Zhu Beiji's performance. It was not like he had never seen someone of this level before. Fuck, how can I remember it so clearly? Zhu Beiji cursed in his heart. This bastard is definitely petty. I'm doomed this time. Little saint, weren't you joking just now? The tears on Zhu Beiji's black face stopped, but there were still traces of tears. He looked like a child, innocent and pure as he asked. Chu Yang could not help but admire the pig in his heart. This pig's ability made him feel ashamed of his inferiority. It was a pity that this pig was not a peerless beauty. Otherwise, its lethality would be indescribable. It's a joke. He paused for a moment, then laughed eerily. Beiji, let me ask you another question. Did you enjoy the fight just now? Zhu Beiji's heart sank into despair. A dead pig fears no boiling water. He rubbed his chin and reminisced. Then, he nodded. It's all right, but it's too imperfect. None of my ideas came to fruition. You didn't get your way because I didn't praise you or give you any rewards, right? Zhu Beiji was shocked when he heard this. This bastard was an expert in this field. Then, he clasped his fists at Chu Yang. I didn't expect the little saint to be an expert in this field. I made a fool of myself just now. Please don't laugh at me, little saint. Beiji, are you trying to use the pig's method to explain to me what a dead pig fears no boiling water means? Chu Yang laughed evilly. Zhu Beiji's hair stood on end and his eyes widened. Hee, I'll satisfy you. Chu Yang said to Bing Kuan. Kuan, give me a hand. Go and slaughter this beast so that it'll be easier to turn it into a dead pig. Explain to me exactly what it means by, a dead pig isn't afraid of boiling water. Yes, master. Zhu Beiji howled as soon as the Ice Kuan finished speaking. Don't be like this, little saint. I was wrong, okay? You can cut my flesh as you wish. You can eat my front hooves or my back hooves, but please don't kill a pig. Beiji, you surrendered so quickly. Chu Yang laughed evilly. Bang bang bang. He gave Zhu Beiji a good beating. When he was done, he clapped his hands twice and said to the Ice Kuan, Kunkin, let's go. Let's return to the heavenly soul realm. It's time to meet the cute people. Whoosh. Chapter 1786. Rumble. Chu Yang had just returned to the seal from the spacetime tunnel. Before he could greet his uncle Sima, thunder rumbled in the sky and a thick thunder cloud formed. This was the lightning tribulation of the soul fusion realm. My little cutie, you're welcoming my return. Chu Yang looked at the thunderclouds in the sky and laughed heartily. The advancement of one's realm was natural, there was nothing strange about it. He immediately switched his martial Dao form. His cultivation in the God's world became hidden, while his cultivation in the heavenly spirit world became visible. He was still at the 9th level of the spirit realm. Uncle, long time no see. I've missed you. Chu Yang's greeting was so warm that Sima Jian couldn't get used to it. He even had goosebumps. Sima Jian didn't know that Chu Yang was extremely happy to return to the normal world. It was as if he had entered heaven from hell. Rumble. However, in the time it took to speak, the lightning punishment had already splashed down. 9 bolts of lightning punishment descended at once, like 9 lightning axes that could split the heavens and earth apart. It was deafening, shaking the heavens and earth, and illuminating the heavens and earth with a blazing light. Chu Yang did not resist at all. He allowed the 9 thunderbolts to strike his body. Amidst the endless thunderbolts, he ran over to hug Sima Jian. Sima Jian was so scared that he hurriedly dodged with a whoosh sound. Who would want to be involved in the lightning tribulation? Sima Jian didn't want to. Who could handle the lightning tribulation like this? Sima Jian couldn't. This monster. Zhu Beiji, whose face was bruised, stared blankly at Chu Yang outside the heavenly abode. He asked the Ice Kuan, Xing deity, does the little Xing deity usually undergo the lightning tribulation like this? Zhu Beiji's eyes were greatly opened. This is normal for the master. I didn't hear the master shouting about the lightning tribulation, little cutie. The Ice Kuan smiled bitterly. To Chu Yang, the lightning tribulation wasn't just a little cutie. It was a close companion and comrade in arms. With the help of the lightning tribulation, he would cause trouble everywhere. When the 9 lightning tribulations landed on Chu Yang's body, they didn't hurt him at all. Instead, they were all absorbed by him. His body was so tough that even a first-stage soul amalgamation realm lightning tribulation couldn't damage it at all. Be careful, fuse your martial spirit and divine spirit, don't leave behind any flaws. After hearing Sima Jian's reprimanding voice, Chu Yang pretended to sit down cross-legged. Generally speaking, no one dared to be careless about the fusion of their martial soul and spirit. There was no one like Chu Yang. If this person was not Chu Yang, but Parrot or Cui Xinho, Sima Jian would have dealt with them long ago. However, whether it was the Parrot or Cui Xinho and the others, it was impossible for them to take it so lightly. Uncle, it's not a big deal. I just came back and you're criticizing me because of this? I'm not happy. Chu Yang was still sloppy. Sima Jian couldn't do anything about it. Even the Ice Kuan in Chu Yang's cave didn't have a temper. Chu Yang was just like that. Rumble. When the first lightning tribulations landed, the second and third lightning tribulations followed. There were a total of 9 lightning tribulations. Every time, 9 lightning tribulations landed simultaneously. In the blink of an eye, the lightning tribulations from 1st to 9th stage soul amalgamation realm ended. The lightning tribulations seemed to have known Chu Yang since a long time ago. Chu Yang released his mental energy. Immediately, chains of order appeared and entered the void. Behind him, the 9 heavenly palace appeared. Soul amalgamation realm, the fusion of the martial soul and divine spirit. After that, it blended with the heavens and earth. Once the fusion with the heavens and earth reached the limit, the 9 heavenly palace would appear. When Sima Jian saw this scene, he was a bit short of breath. Comparisons are odious. Chu Yang, that little bastard. It was too easy for him to advance. It was as if he had directly reached the 9th stage soul amalgamation realm from the 9th stage of the spirit realm. Furthermore, it only took a blink of an eye. Chapter 1787. Roar. Chu Yang's martial spirit was currently fusing with his light soul, devil soul, and his own god soul. Clang clang clang. The sound of the sword and the light merged with the sword martial spirit and the demon spirit merged with the blade martial spirit. This was not Chu Yang's original intention. He wanted to fuse the light soul and devil soul with the divine demon martial spirit, but he was unable to do so. The divine demon martial spirit rejected the light soul and devil soul, and the light soul and devil soul did not seem to be able to fuse with the divine demon martial spirit, which was the Destiny twins. As a result, both of them had fused with the saber and sword martial soul. This grandpa's Destiny twins are really too outrageous. They have completely jumped out of the heavenly spirit world's martial arts system. Chu Yang was a little surprised. After all, the light soul and devil soul were formed from the 7 souls of the darkness devil emperor and the chief sovereign of light. Both the chief sovereign of light and the darkness devil emperor were extremely powerful. But even so, it was still not enough. Roar! The fusion of the chaos dragon martial soul and Chu Yang's divine soul was also possible. The chaos dragon martial soul was created by Chu Yang. It could be said to have started from nothing, and then continued to evolve. Everything was created by Chu Yang, and it represented creativity, countless possibilities, and it also represented heaven-defying actions, and so on. It had many similarities with his own personality. The fusion between the two was nothing more than the fusion of Chu Yang's ideas with his own. It was also like receiving his own result. The fusion between the martial soul and the three great spirits was almost seamless. It was completed in an instant. At this moment, the thunder cloud in the sky had yet to completely disperse. What about abilities? Once the fusion was complete, Chu Yang sensed that there were no changes. He couldn't help but be taken aback. Previously, when he reached the spirit stage, he had obtained the divine demon twins. Now that he had broken through to the soul fusion stage, his spirit and martial soul had fused. Logically speaking, he should have obtained a divine ability, but why didn't he obtain one? After pondering for a while, he vaguely felt something strange. After the light spirit and the sword martial spirit fused, the light seemed to be the sword, and the sword was the light. After the demon spirit and the saber martial spirit fused, the darkness seemed to be the saber, and the saber was the saber. It's added to the sword and saber techniques? Chu Yang was slightly disappointed. It was not difficult for him to fuse the two together. The fusion of the Chaos Dragon martial soul and my own divine spirit didn't produce any divine abilities? In the end, he discovered that the divine ability might have been produced, but it had already fused with the divine ability he had previously mastered. It seemed to be a spatial teleportation technique or some other spatial technique. As he delved deeper, he finally sensed something from the runes formed by the fusion of the two. It was the grand confinement technique. 1. With a thought, Chu Yang waved his hand in the air. Immediately, the space around him was locked down, causing Sima Jian to be shocked. Such a spell wasn't the ability to control the heavens and earth, nor was it the ability of a soul amalgamation realm cultivator to suppress a lower realm cultivator. It was a true spatial spell. Chicken ribs, no, this can't even be considered a divine ability. Chu Yang was thoroughly disappointed. With his heavenly abode, he could more or less do the same. It was just more convenient. The way he shook his head made Sima Jian have the urge to beat him up. This was a spatial divine ability. What was there to be dissatisfied with? Waha Chu Hang, when I heard the thunder, this divine bird knew that you were back. Flapping sounds could be heard, and a colorful ray of light came from the outside and went straight into the seal of the space-time tunnel. Who else could it be other than a parrot? You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.